Chapter 30:15. What's the structure of the brain? 11. When she said this, Chao Ming felt that her entire person was not good. Her mood instantly became gloomy. When Lung Ruoxue and the other two heard this, they were speechless. However, the demon was relieved. At least this woman wouldn't cause any trouble for him and Shui. Are you here to defend us, or are you here to ask me how to chase a man? Lung Ruoxue asked after a moment of silence. I'm here to defend you and also to ask about chasing men, Chao Ming said honestly. Even though Lung Ruoxue felt a little helpless when she heard this, she still kindly suggested, I wonder what type of man you're interested in? Cold-blooded? Domineering? Gentle? Black-bellied? It's a big ice block, Chao Ming said with hatred. Even a beauty like you can't warm the ice? Then I really don't have any good ideas, unless the Overlord forces himself on me. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. The Overlord forced himself on me? Will he come after me after this? Even though Lung Ruoxue's idea moved Chao Ming, she was still a little afraid. I don't know, Lung Ruoxue said irresponsibly. Chao Ming was upset by Lung Ruoxue and said with hatred, You're too irresponsible. I'm too honest. Why don't I suggest you change to another man? Lung Ruoxue suggested. The ice cube man was the most difficult to deal with. Of course, once he melted the ice, he would turn into an ice-cold loyal dog. This was something that would give one a sense of accomplishment. However, this princess in front of them didn't seem to have the courage to do so. No. I've had my eyes on him since I was young. He had guarded it for so many years. How could he let others take advantage of it? I've decided. I'll do as you say. Making up his mind, Chao Ming said with a look of going all out. I wish you good luck, Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Thank you. Now that I'm done with my business, let's talk about yours. Chao Ming's train of thought jumped around and very quickly, she brought the topic back to Lung Ruoxue. The matter of the Hei family? Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes and asked in an innocent manner. Regarding the Hei family's false accusation, what do you have to say? How do you want me to defend you? Chao Ming asked seriously, her previous joy gone. Lung Ruoxue looked deeply at Chao Ming for a long time before she replied honestly. It's not a false accusation, because I did it. She realized that Chao Ming and Chao Yu were indeed siblings. The way they spoke, did things, and their styles were really similar. Chao Ming didn't expect to hear this answer, and was stunned for a long time. Lung Ruoxue and the other two sat quietly on the chairs, not disturbing her thoughts. After a long time, Chao Ming finally came back to her senses. She looked at Lung Ruoxue with a nervous expression and said, You really did it? How did you do it? He did it just like that. Lung Ruoxue's answer was very simple, but Chao Ming was going crazy. What kind of answer was that? He was too irresponsible. That's not something that ordinary people can do. Chao Ming gritted her teeth and reminded him. I didn't say I was an ordinary person. Lung Ruoxue agreed. Thanks, that's not something an ability user can do, Chao Ming said. Chao Ming, on the other hand, was going crazy. She deeply felt that communicating with the woman in front of her was very tiring. Could she go home? Taking a few deep breaths, Chao Ming collected her depressed mood and said, Can I take it as you are not ability users? Sure. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Then can you tell me who you are? As far as I know, the Alliance has not found out your identities. You are not even from an elementary civilization. At this point, Chao Ming did not intend to hide anything. If I say that we are gods, would you believe me? Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Of course I don't. We're in the age of technology. Where do gods even exist? Chao Ming said immediately. She was an atheist and did not believe in gods or demons. There are gods in this world, Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Then what evidence do you have to prove that you are a god? Chao Ming asked, still in disbelief. Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly, then grabbed Chao Ming's arm. The two of them disappeared from the room. When Chao Ming realized that she had been brought to the vast universe in the blink of an eye, and was still floating in the blue sky, she couldn't stand the stimulation. She couldn't help but let out a scream and her face turned pale. She held on to Lung Ruoxue tightly, afraid that she would fall. This was too surreal. She was actually standing in space without any protective measures. No one would believe it. Go back. I believe you. After a long time, Chao Ming finally stabilized a little and said pitifully, "Sob." She seemed to know too much. She didn't know if she would be killed. PND of 1. Chao Ming, who was still in shock, was like a little beast that had been struck by lightning. She sat on the chair listlessly. After a long time, she carefully asked, "May I know, what did the Hei family do to offend you?" "The head of the Hei family wants to give his daughter to my man," Lung Ruoxue said casually, then added, "Since they dare to bully me, then I can only make the Hei family lose everything." Upon hearing this, Chao Ming's heart settled down and thought, that was close. It was a good thing that she was not interested in that devilish man. Otherwise, she would bring disaster to the Mu Yuan royal family. Wait, what about her brother? It seemed that he had to go back and persuade his brother not to have any ideas about this woman. He couldn't afford to offend these three people. After thinking about it, Chao Ming felt a sense of relief. But she still couldn't help but ask curiously, "You told me about your identity and the Hei family. Aren't you afraid you'll tell others?" "I'm not afraid." "Aren't you our lawyer?" "Of course, you have to be honest with a lawyer." Lung Ruoxue blinked and smiled. In reality, to these ordinary people, if her identity could really scare them, it would not be a good thing to not pay for it. It would save them a lot of trouble. Therefore, Lung Ruoxue did not mind Chao Ming revealing her identity. Chao Ming nodded with a bitter smile and couldn't help but sigh. "When I was a child, I heard my elders say that God loves the world. Today, I finally know that this is true." Lung Ruoxue was confused. God loves the world. Was that something a god could say? It should be the huckster who said it, right? Seeing Lung Ruoxue's confusion, Chao Ming took the initiative to explain. "Even though the Hei family has offended you, you didn't kill anyone from the Hei family. You only gave them some punishment. Isn't this a display of God's love for the world?" "Child, you're thinking too much." Those were the words that the huckster used to deceive the innocent people. Chapter 30:16. What's the structure of the brain? 12. Initially, Lung Ruoxue did not want to explain, but in order not to be misunderstood, she still said, "You're wrong. In the eyes of God, everything in the world is like an ant. If you offend the dignity of God, you will have to pay with your life. But for me, it's too easy to turn some people into ashes, and I don't want to let the Hei family benefit, so it's better to let them have nothing." After hearing this, Chao Ming was speechless. She could no longer say anything like, "God loves the world." It turned out that gods were terrifying and vengeful, and the revenge would be extremely ruthless. Today, she finally experienced it. "You don't need to do anything." Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. When Chao Ming heard this, she had a bad feeling. Someone was going to be in trouble. "You can just be our lawyer in name." At this time, the demon spoke. The demon's words made Chao Ming sad. She was one of the best lawyers in the alliance. Why did she become a wallflower in front of these three? However, the other party was a god, and it seemed that she really didn't need to do anything. Lung Ruoxue nodded in agreement. Chao Ming had no choice but to compromise under the pressure of these two. Before he was about to leave, Lung Ruoxue reminded him, "Princess Chao Ming, I suggest that you take this opportunity to pursue the man that you like." "I will." After saying that, Chao Ming turned around stiffly and left. However, she didn't leave immediately. Instead, she went to bail the three of them out, but their bail was rejected by the alliance. After being rejected, Chao Ming didn't argue with the people of the alliance. Instead, she looked at the person in charge who rejected her with a little sympathy, and then patted her sleeves, not taking away any color. The person in charge was surprised for a long time when he saw that Chao Ming was so easy to talk to, but he did not think too much about it. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue and the other two were temporarily locked up in the detention room. Looking at the sealed white room, Jikai couldn't help but sigh. "Master, madam, I've always been a law-abiding citizen. Today is the first time I'm being detained." "You mean we're not law-abiding citizens?" Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue raised her eyebrows. "No, it wasn't he. I didn't mean it that way." Ji Kai saw that his wife's tone was a bit unfriendly, so he quickly changed his words. But you're right. We've never been law-abiding citizens, because the laws in our world are all set by us. Lung Ruoxue suddenly changed the topic. Such a sudden turn of events stunned Ji Kai for a while. After he regained his senses, he looked at Lung Ruoxue with his bright eyes and shouted in his heart, "My idol! Madam is so domineering." However, what Ji Kai admired more was the calm bearing of his master and his wife. No matter where and when, the two of them seemed to be strolling in their own backyard. It really made him envious, jealous, and hateful. When he could be like this, he would feel that he was complete. He stayed in the detention room for 3 days, but the Alliance Parliament didn't send anyone over. Ji Kai couldn't help but feel puzzled. In fact, the Alliance Parliament had been biding their time because they had been discussing countermeasures. According to the news from the Muyuan royal family, 2 of the 3 were gods, so they couldn't be touched. Of course, this news was disclosed to the Muyuan royal family by Chao Meng, and the Muyuan royal family informed the Alliance Council out of consideration for their interests. The appearance of this news caused the alliance to be divided into 2 factions. One faction was naturally led by the Muyuan royal family. They supported the idea of befriending Lung Ruoxue, and the other 2. The other faction was led by Vice President Good-for-Nothing's Fan family. They hoped to control Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 in their hands. Thanks, the 3 of them calmly stayed in the detention room during the day, and returned to the bracelet to rest at night. The Vindice who was in charge of monitoring their every move seemed to be used to them disappearing from time to time. However, such news to the people of the Alliance Parliament was mixed with joy and sorrow. The worried side was naturally the Muyuan royal family. They really did not know when this matter would end. They deeply felt that the longer this matter dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for the alliance. What if the god of killing got angry? The consequences were simply unimaginable. However, Good-for-Nothing and the others were rather excited. Originally, Good-for-Nothing only felt that Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 were extraordinary. Now that it was proven that they were indeed extraordinary, he naturally did not want to let the 3 of them off easily. What he desired the most was to take them for himself. Good-for-Nothing, who had already gone a little crazy, had made up his mind to keep Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 in the Alliance Conference forever. Of course, they would be kept as their prisoners and test subjects. He coveted the others' magical treasure, and he wanted to get their genes that were beyond human. He deeply believed that as long as he could get the genes of the man and woman, the Fan family would become the most powerful family in the entire alliance. Thinking of this, Good-for-Nothing could not control his thoughts at all. However, the Muyuan royal family had an extraordinary status in the alliance. With their strong opposition, at least half of the alliance's parliament members chose not to support him, which made him feel deeply aggrieved. However, Good-for-Nothing insisted on doing this, so he sent people to secretly persuade those families who did not support him on the surface, and the results were very good. There were quite a few families that were convinced by him, and had their eyes on Lung Ruoxue and the high-quality genes of the evildoer. After all, the temptation of genes that could improve the fundamental quality of the family was too great. Furthermore, Lung Ruoxue and the evildoer had always been very obedient. This had caused some of the greedy families to look down on them. From their point of view, even though the Hei family had accused the couple of being responsible for the destruction of their property, they did not have any concrete evidence. As such, it was impossible to prove how terrifying the strength of the couple was. Moreover, who didn't know what was going on behind the scenes? As a result, Hei tribe's end was not a good example for them. Some families were on the bright road to death, never to return. Although the royal family of Muyuan was furious about the betrayal of a considerable number of their allies, they could do nothing about it. The only thing they could do was to draw a clear line with the other party. After all, the temptation of those 3 people was too great for the major families. At one point, some people in the Mu Yuan royal family were tempted. However, under the iron-blooded suppression of the Emperor Mu Yuan, the restless royal family members either retracted their thoughts or were expelled from the royal family, and were no longer a part of the Mu Yuan royal family. In short, this time, the strong Emperor Mu Yuan would not be soft on anyone. even if the other party was his own son. In reality, the reason why Emperor Muyuan was so determined to be on good terms with Leng Ruoxue and the other two was because after he dealt with a few members of the royal family for the first time, Leng Ruoxue and the demon had visited his palace. At that time, they had given Emperor Muyuan a huge scare. Such a god who could appear in front of them without alerting anyone was not something that ordinary people like them could covet. With that experience of shock, Emperor Muyuan's mind was even more determined. A god was a god. It was not something that ordinary people could get their hands on. More importantly, Leng Ruoxue had also given Emperor Muyuan an elixir that could remove the poison in Chaoyu's body. Chaoyu was his most beloved son. Because he was envied by others when he was young, he was poisoned by an unknown poison. Otherwise, he wouldn't have become so short and ugly. Now that he had an elixir that could cure his son's poison, what else could he ask for? Emperor Muyuan was satisfied and deeply felt that his policy of befriending others was the right one. Now he had gained real benefits. He was happy, but after he followed Leng Ruoxue back to the detention cell, the demon was not feeling well. Needless to say, the demon drank another big jar of vinegar. He felt that Shuer was too concerned about Chaoyu. After Leng Ruoxue found out, she only felt so wronged. When did she pay attention to Chaoyu? At least, the first time she saw Chaoyu, although she was surprised that there was such a good-looking person like Chaoyu in this high-tech civilization star field, she didn't think that Chaoyu was poisoned at all. The second time she saw him, she noticed that Chaoyu was as fat as a ball, so she observed him out of curiosity. This was not attention, she was just giving the Muyuan royal family some benefits. After all, they had always been supporting them. Another 10 days passed. The good-for-nothing deputy speaker and his men finally arrived in the detention room. Seeing Leng Ruoxue and the other two being so carefree, good-for-nothing could not help but feel a little angry. Even though he knew that the three of them were living a carefree life, the impact of seeing it with his own eyes was even greater. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue and the other two were having breakfast. Looking at the dazzling variety of breakfast on the table, some of good-for-nothing and the others could not help but swallow their saliva. However, Leng Ruoxue had no intention of treating them to breakfast. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Leng Ruoxue and the other two calmly finished their breakfast before smiling at good-for-nothing. Vice Speaker Good-for-Nothing, is there anything I can help you with? Chapter 30:17. The enemy was too cunning. 1. Of course there's something. Fan Tong raised his head and said arrogantly. After Leng Ruoxue heard this, she blinked her eyes and waited for Fan Tong to continue. Fan Tong also deliberately paused and waved his hand. Several doctors in white robes walked in from behind. After the doctors entered, they swiftly took out all sorts of tools and stood in front of Leng Ruoxue and the other two, waiting for the next order. Deputy Speaker Fan Tong, what are you doing? None of us are sick. Leng Ruoxue asked, playing dumb. Of course I know that none of you are sick. There are not so many doctors here just to treat you. Fan Tong answered truthfully. Then he took a deep breath and said, the Parliament hopes that you can cooperate with the examination. The examination is of great significance to all of mankind, so it is of great importance. You mean the examination on us concerns the entire human race? Leng Ruoxue pretended to be deep in thought as she asked. Then, without giving Fan Tong a chance to reply, she continued to ask, but what does this have to do with us? How is it none of your business? Are you not humans? Shouldn't they be contributing to the development of mankind? Fan Tong had placed a huge responsibility on Leng Ruoxue's group of 3, which was related to the development of the entire human race. He had an expression that did not allow for rejection. Leng Ruoxue and the other two could also tell that if they accepted some kind of groundless inspection, then they might be able to contribute to the development of mankind. If they rejected it, they might be treated as sinners of mankind. Preposterous. Did he think they were easy to bully or deceive? He wanted to stand on the moral high ground and threaten them? Not to mention Leng Ruoxue and the evildoer. Even Ji Kai, who had heard this, felt disgusted by the shamelessness of Fan Tong and the others. He had long heard of the dirty ways of the Alliance Council, and he finally saw it for himself today. If they were to flatter ordinary people, They might really fall for it in order to be heroes. But who was the person in front of them now? Ji Kai gave them 32 thumbs up sympathetically and mourned for them for 3 minutes. This was what it meant to not die if they didn't seek death, right? At this moment, Ji Kai had already decided to move a small stool and take out his snacks to watch the show. In any case, there was a master and his wife, so he just had to be an audience. Although it was a little unprofessional for a servant to not be of any help, he could not be blamed. Who asked master and madam to be too strong? Once they provoked an enemy, he would be left in the dust. Sob. As a servant, he was actually under a lot of pressure. After a long time, Lung Ruoxue and the demon did not have much of a reaction after hearing what Fan Tong had to say. Seeing this, Fan Tong was a little anxious and asked, "I'm talking to you. Don't be a mute." Smiling, Lung Ruoxue said with a good temper, "Deputy Speaker Fan Tong, how do you want us to answer you? Of course you'll happily accept our inspection." Fan Tong said matter-of-factly, "All right. But that's what you think. I can only say that you're dreaming." Lung Ruoxue said calmly, Do you know who you are talking to?" Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Fan Tong was enraged. "Do you know who you're talking to?" Lung Ruoxue smiled. "You." Fan Tong was at a loss for words. Although he knew that the other party was a god, he would not admit the identity of the two people in front of him. Otherwise, how could he continue with his purpose? "Thanks, what? You don't want to acknowledge our identities?" Lung Ruoxue sneered. "The crime is smuggling?" Lung Ruoxue asked calmly. "And we have to cooperate with your inspection for the sake of the development of all mankind." Lung Ruoxue asked again. "That's right. So in order to avoid physical pain, you'd better be tactful and take the initiative to cooperate. Otherwise, you'll bear the consequences." Fan Tong shouted at the top of his voice. "Have you ever thought about the consequences of treating us like this?" Lung Ruoxue continued to ask. "This is the territory of the Alliance. Are you guys thinking of rebelling?" Hearing this, Fan Tong's heart trembled, but he quickly calmed down. This was because he believed that if the other party was really a god, he would definitely not start a massacre on all of humanity. After all, why would a true god care about mortals? God loves the world. Unfortunately, even though his idea was wonderful, he had forgotten that if he violated the dignity of the gods, would the gods be angry? As for Lung Ruoxue and the evildoer, they were not gods that were easy to get along with. It was fine if they didn't provoke them, but once they were provoked, the unlucky ones would definitely be others. After hearing Fan Tong's words, Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly and said, "We don't need to rebel, because in our eyes, you are just a group of ants." Who are you calling an ant?" Hearing this, Fan Tong was furious. He had always thought highly of himself and never thought that he would be treated as an ant one day. In his eyes, ants had always been others. How could it be him? Lung Ruoxue's words were like a lit explosive, instantly setting Fan Tong on fire. Seeing that Fan Tong was glaring at her with wide eyes, Lung Ruoxue became even calmer and smiled without saying a word. Seeing her like this, Fan Tong was angry and resentful. Without thinking, he ordered the doctors, "Capture them and inspect them. There's no need to be polite to them. Weren't you being polite to us before?" When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she could not help but ask with widened eyes. "Of course. I was very polite to you before, but you refused to cooperate. So I can only use force." Fan Tong's face was full of regret. "Being strong isn't that easy to use. Are you sure you want to use it?" Lung Ruoxue confirmed. "I don't want to either. It's a pity that you won't cooperate." Fan Tong said with a little regret. "If that's the case, it seems like we can't come to an agreement." Lung Ruoxue said with a tinge of regret. "You can't say that. In fact, our attitude is completely dependent on your cooperation. So, as long as you're willing to cooperate, we can still come to an agreement." Seeing that there was a way, Fan Tong said again, "I wonder how you guys want to check?" Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. Hearing her words, Fan Tong thought that Lung Ruoxue had given in. His face instantly bloomed into a chrysanthemum as he hurriedly said, "Actually, I only need you to offer a little bit of your blood. You guys want to get my master and madam's genes?" Hearing this, Ji Kai's face paled. Jeans. What's it for? As the mistress of the dark world, the demon had never come into contact with such profound things, so he had no idea what the function of the genes Jikai mentioned was. Chapter 30:18. The enemy was too cunning too. Genes are the data that makes up the human body. It can be obtained through research such as blood and hair. After obtaining the genes, you can use them for other purposes. Jikai quickly explained. What can I do? The demon narrowed his eyes and asked again. Yes. Jikai didn't dare to say it because he knew that if he said the worst result, his master would definitely be angry. If we combine our genes with some people, we should be able to create an excellent descendant. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Descendant? Is it ours? The demon shamelessly asked. If it was ours, would they need to go through so much trouble? Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Then who is it with? The evildoer's anger gradually rose. He had a bad feeling, so when he said this, his torch-like eyes were already fixed on Fan Tong. Being stared at by the demon's ink-black eyes, Fan Tong's legs immediately went soft, but he still pretended to be calm and said, Of course it's with the most outstanding member of the opposite sex in the entire star field. Only then can we create more outstanding humans. The most outstanding member of the opposite sex? It's not Shui-er? The evildoer understood the other party's words, and the anger in his heart completely erupted. Was he trying to steal his and Shui-er's genes to pair with someone else? This was preposterous. I don't deny that the two of you are excellent, but for the development of the entire star field, just the two of you are not enough. Therefore, your genes are very important to us. I hope you can take the big picture into consideration and assist us in our research. This is no loss for you at all, right? Seeing that the demon seemed to be wavering, Fan Tong began to brainwash him again. It's your big head. The evildoer was completely enraged. He directly kicked Fan Tong in the stomach and kicked him out of the detention room. Fan Tong, who was kicked away, still shouted, Warning! Activate the alarm. This man is too dangerous. Fan Tong's voice came closer and further away, then slowly disappeared. After that, the demon's gaze turned to the other people present, and he smiled faintly. You guys also want our genes? As he spoke, the evildoer approached the people step by step. The strong sense of oppression made the other members of the Alliance Parliament break out in cold sweat. Their faces were pale as they retreated bit by bit as the evildoer closed in. In the end, no one knew who took the lead, but the people from the Alliance Council began to rush out of the detention room. Watching the back of the people from the Alliance Council, Lung Ruoxue looked at Jikai in disappointment and said, This is the alliance that you've been talking about? With such little guts, you still dare to covet our genes? Ugh. Jikai didn't know what to say. This was none of his business. He wasn't a member of the Alliance Council, so why did the madam sound like she was disappointed in him? Jikai truly felt that he had been wronged, but he didn't dare to talk back to his wife, so he could only flatter his master. Master is too powerful. So, under Master's overbearing aura, the people of the Alliance Council slipped away. Master, madam, what are we doing now? Then Jikai asked. I'm going to destroy the Alliance. The demon said coldly. Master, I support you. Jikai's lackey said, but as soon as he finished speaking, he heard an ear-piercing alarm from outside the detention room. It was the highest-level alarm. Immediately, Jikai's expression changed, and he said with a trembling voice, Master, madam, we're in trouble. The Alliance has sounded the highest-level alarm. We're going to be surrounded by the entire star field. Thanks, not only that, there will also be mini-energy laser cannons and other high-tech weapons that are not allowed to be used easily. Master, madam, what should we do? We're in danger. Jikai said nervously. What are you afraid of? Lung Ruoxue gave Jikai a disdainful look and said with disdain. Madam, the energy laser cannon is very powerful. Basically, a high-performance laser cannon can destroy a planet. Jikai knew that Lung Ruoxue didn't know the power of high-tech weapons, so he quickly explained. However, Lung Ruoxue still did not care. She gave the demon a look, and the two of them walked out together. Seeing this, Jikai could only follow behind them like a little wife. As soon as the three of them came out of the detention room, They saw that they were surrounded by countless people. Facing them, in addition to the dense and fully armed alliance guards, there were also hundreds of high-performance laser cannons in silver lines. Lung Ruoxue surveyed the scene before her beautiful eyes landed on a middle-aged man with a bandage around his head. Deputy Speaker Fan Tong, what is this for? That man was Fan Tong. Lung Ruoxue almost laughed out loud when she saw his expression. Did it have to be bandaged so exaggeratedly? You dangerous people. You actually dare to attack me. Fan Tong said with a face full of resentment. My husband only kicked you once, and you call that assault? If you're so easily ambushed, then aren't you too useless as a deputy speaker? Lung Ruoxue scoffed when she heard Fan Tong's words. This should be considered as the villain complaining first, right? Logically speaking, they should be the ones who were angry, but before they could do anything, Fan Tong and the others had already charged them with crimes. They really thought they were easy to bully. Lung Ruoxue started to reflect on herself. All this while, had they been too gentle towards these people? It's not that I'm useless, but the enemy is too cunning. Fan Tong quibbled. All right. What do you want now? Are you going to use these laser cannons against us? Lung Ruoxue asked helplessly. As long as you obediently surrender, I can let you go. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Fan Tong put on a magnanimous expression. Do you need us to help you collect genes? Lung Ruoxue asked. It's your honor to make sacrifices for the people of the entire star field. Fan Tong said matter-of-factly. Do we need to sacrifice ourselves this time? Lung Ruoxue pretended to be shocked. Wasn't he just cooperating with her for the examination just now? They were only kicked by a demon, and they had to sacrifice themselves? Wasn't this kick a little too expensive? Was Fan Tong worth that much? You're too dangerous. It's better to sacrifice yourselves for the star field. This is also for the stability of the entire star field. Fan Tong boasted shamelessly. What if we refuse to sacrifice ourselves? Lung Ruoxue asked in confusion. Then die now, Fan Tong said as he endured the pain in his heart. Although he said that, he was taking a gamble. He was betting that the other party did not want to die so early. After all, even a god could not hope to win against their high-energy laser cannons. Chapter 30:19. The enemy was too cunning. 3. In his view, gods should only be a little higher than ability users. In general, they should have some similarities with ability users, and that was that their abilities were easily consumed. Thus, the advantage of their energy laser cannons was naturally reflected. We don't want to die either, Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Then let's sacrifice for the entire star field. Fan Tong said again. Deputy Speaker Fan Tong, may I ask, what is the difference between the sacrifice and death you mentioned? Lung Ruoxue suddenly asked. After being entangled with the other party for a long time, she finally reacted. Wasn't death and sacrifice the same? The final result was death, right? Then why was she still wasting time with the other party? The difference is huge. Although they both die, the treatment after death is completely different. Sacrificing for the sake of the entire star field, you're our heroes, but if you die, you'll die without an intact corpse. So if you're smart, you should know what to do, right? Fan Tong said proudly. Of course, but according to my understanding, the sacrifice you mentioned should cause us to suffer, and death will only be an instant. However, I'm curious, are you really willing to kill us with a laser cannon? Lung Ruoxue's curiosity grew as she spoke. I don't want to, but you're too dangerous. If you're not willing to contribute to the development of the entire star field, I can only bear the pain and part with you. Fan Tong said with a look of reluctance. In fact, he felt that he would rather destroy something that he could not get than let others get it. Otherwise he would be depressed to death. But now, the two people in front of him were obviously unwilling to cooperate, and even used violence on him, causing him to embarrass himself in front of his subordinates. This was something he could not tolerate. Of course, if the other party was still willing to provide him with the genes, he would be willing to let them off for the time being. However, it was only temporary. From the moment they embarrassed him, the fate of these two people was already determined. Now it was time to see if they died a worthy death. What a good way to bear the pain and part with your love. It seems like we still can't come to an agreement. Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly. With a thought, she had already put Ji Kai into her bracelet. When he saw Ji Kai disappear, Fan Tong's eyes flickered and he said, "You can only blame yourselves for not cooperating. Do you think anyone would be willing to cooperate? Deputy Speaker Fan Tong, have you brainwashed someone? Or do you think we're fools? If I ask you to cooperate like this, would you be willing?" Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. "Of course I'm willing. This is such an honorable thing," Fan Tong said with a thick face. "As expected of the Alliance's vice-chairman. In that case, you should cooperate with me." As soon as Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, Fan Tong was already in her hands. No one present had seen how she had done it. As soon as he was caught, Fan Tong was a little scared. What are you doing?" Fan Tong's little face turned pale, and he stuttered. He only felt a light breeze and he was captured. What kind of speed was this? "I want to use you as an experiment. Don't worry, after you die, you'll definitely become a great hero of the entire starfield," Lung Ruoxue promised. Then she shifted her gaze to a commander of the Alliance guards and smiled. "Fire at Deputy Speaker Fan Tong. Let me test the power of your laser cannon. How many heads would it take to fire at the vice-chairman without fear of retaliation?" Thanks. Lung Ruoxue was very disappointed. The other party was so timid. Could they still continue playing happily? One had to know that she had been acting with the other party for so long, and was just waiting to reel in the net. But now the other party was afraid. What was she to do? Sensing Shui Er's frustration, the evildoer snatched Deputy Speaker Fan Tong from her hands and broke one of his arms without saying a word. Instantly, a pig-like scream filled the air, shocking everyone present. The faces of the Alliance Parliament members who witnessed this scene instantly turned pale, and cold sweat trickled down their faces. The moment Lung Ruoxue saw this, she couldn't help but glance at the demon with some hidden bitterness. This fellow had stolen her limelight. The furious Lung Ruoxue was not willing to be outdone by others. She mimicked the evildoer and broke Fan Tong's other arm. Immediately, another shrill scream was heard. The others' faces turned even paler, and their hearts began to tremble. Were this couple really gods? How could he be so brutal? The Alliance Parliament was shocked. At that moment, Deputy Speaker Fan Tong had already fainted from the pain. Seeing that Fan Tong was so useless, the demon was too lazy to lift him up with his hands. He threw Fan Tong on the ground and stepped on him with his feet. Then his dark eyes turned to the others and ordered, "Come on! Don't you want to destroy us? Hurry up and do it." He wasn't as patient as Schwer to play with these ants. He had had enough. Now he just wanted to end this quickly and teach these people a painful lesson before leaving with Schwer. However, those people did not dare to act rashly after hearing his fierce tone. Moreover, their deputy speaker was still in the hands of these two people. If they really fought and injured Deputy Speaker Fan, the Fan family would definitely not let this matter rest. The evildoer could see their hesitation and released Deputy Speaker Fan Tong out of kindness. Fan Tong was kicked away by him again, and fell into the lake not far from the Alliance building. In the lake, there was a star beast that had been hungry for a long time. Suddenly, food fell into its mouth. It would be a waste not to eat it. Thus, the unconscious Deputy Speaker Fan Tong unknowingly became the star beast's meal. The commander of the Alliance guards did not expect Vice Chairman Fan to become the food of the astral beast. Seeing that Vice Chairman Fan was no longer a hostage, he asked for instructions from the Alliance Council and launched an attack on Lung Ruoxue and the demon. The Alliance Council could also tell that these two would never listen to their arrangements and surrender without putting up a fight. As such, they, who were in the same boat as Fan Tong, naturally did not wish for Lung Ruoxue and the demon to fall into the hands of others. Hence, the only outcome for these two was death. In an instant, hundreds of laser cannons were aimed at Lung Ruoxue and the demon. Ji Kai, who saw this scene from the bracelet, was extremely anxious. At this moment, he hated himself for being too weak to help his master and madam. However, Lung Ruoxue didn't have the time to comfort Ji Kai. She was counting the countless red light spots on her body. Seeing that Schwer was having fun, the demon didn't disturb her, and just stared at the hundreds of laser cannons in front of him. He did not have much research on this thing, and did not know how powerful it was. However, if these people in front of him wanted to use these high-tech weapons to destroy him and Schwer, they were simply delusional. However, he also wanted to test the power of these laser cannons, so neither he nor Schwer wanted to dodge. At this moment, the hundreds of laser cannons that were ready launched a fierce attack. Chapter 30:20. The enemy was too cunning for. Hundreds of energy balls that emitted white light were shot out from the laser cannon's caliber, instantly surrounding Lung Ruoxue and the demon. The two of them were bathed in the energy balls and did not feel any pain at all. In fact, Lung Ruoxue was even absorbing the energy on her own. As the ball of energy exploded in front of the Alliance Parliament members, they were relieved and thought that the other party was dead for sure. Who knew that not long after, the huge explosion of the laser energy disappeared without a trace. Lung Ruoxue and the demon were still standing in front of them, unscathed. Seeing the two of them without a single strand of hair missing, the Alliance Parliament members felt an unprecedented panic. These aren't human. No one could remain unscathed under the attack of the energy laser cannon. This was truly a god. If there were still people who doubted Lung Ruoxue and the demon god's identity before, no one dared to doubt them anymore at this moment. Seeing that the two of them were fine, the people from the Alliance Parliament subconsciously retreated. Lung Ruoxue and the demon naturally could not pretend that they did not see the small actions of the crowd. "What, are you scared?" Lung Ruoxue asked despite knowing the answer. He was afraid. "Of course I'm afraid. Even the most powerful energy laser cannon couldn't do anything to these two. So these ordinary people naturally couldn't. And now, what they were most afraid of was the revenge of these two people. No, it should be said that it was punishment. Everyone's hearts were in a mess. As they thought about it, they kept a close eye on Lung Ruoxue and the demon. They were afraid that the two of them would attack everyone in a fit of anger. With the other party's ability, none of them would be able to survive. Seeing that they were a little nervous, Lung Ruoxue comforted them kindly. "Don't be afraid, I won't kill you." She wouldn't kill easily during her honeymoon. Otherwise, these people wouldn't have been able to reach this point. But it would have been better if she didn't say that. Instead, she made the other party even more afraid. Not killing them might mean that they would receive an even more terrible punishment. At this moment, the evildoer took a step forward and gave the people from the Alliance Council a big shock. He only took a laser cannon and started studying it. After a while, the evildoer raised his head and said to Lung Ruoxue, "Schwer, I want to try out the power of this laser cannon." "Try it. There are a lot of people there." Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly as she pointed at the people from the Alliance. At this moment, the only thought in the Alliance Council was that he was lying. Didn't he say that he wouldn't kill them? What was going on now? Those who were timid could already feel their legs getting wet. Pnd. Everyone's heart trembled, their legs went soft, and their faces turned pale. The demon smiled. This weapon belonged to the Alliance Council, so he had no pressure using it. He pressed the button of the energy laser cannon, and a ball of energy shot out from the barrel. In an instant, the Alliance people scattered like birds. The energy laser cannon chased after the people of the Alliance Parliament, and then hit the building. In an instant, the Alliance Conference building collapsed into ruins, hitting hundreds of unlucky people who were closest to the building. After the incident, Evildoer looked innocently at the Alliance Parliament members who were still in shock and said, "It's none of my business. I hit the Alliance Parliament building. Also, this laser cannon is yours. Shameless bastard." Thanks, they were scared out of their wits. It was only one laser cannon just now. If there were a few more, the planet where the Parliament was located would probably be destroyed. At this moment, they heard the demon say, "I'll give you 1 minute to leave this place. After 1 minute, I'll blow up everything here." Damn it. Really, what you're afraid of comes. Although the people from the Alliance Council thought so, they still quickly boarded their own spaceships and started their spaceships to leave. Not long after the flying shuttle flew out, they felt the flying shuttle shake violently. Through the glass of the cabin, they saw countless piercing white lights flashing in front of their eyes. They were extremely afraid and didn't have the time to think about it. They only cared about driving the flying shuttle to escape from this place. After all the spaceships had left, Lung Ruoxue and the demon hovered in midair and looked at the ruins on the ground. Both of them revealed satisfied smiles and said to the star beasts that were prostrating on the ground, "This place will be yours from now on." The astral beasts that were summoned were filled with disbelief. However, very quickly, they let out deafening howls and cheers. Their voices were filled with gratitude towards Lung Ruoxue and the demon. In reality, Lung Ruoxue and the demon had no intention of blowing up this planet. After all, other than the parliament, there were also many astral beasts living on this planet. Those little fellows were innocent. Hence, after scaring the people from the parliament away, the two of them left the planet where the parliament was located to the astral beasts here. Then the two of them left. On the spaceship, Jikai was moved out. As soon as he came out, Jikai's face was full of grievance, and tears were rolling in his eyes. Lung Ruoxue found it funny and teased, "What, who bullied you?" "No one bullied me. I just feel that I'm too useless and can't help with anything," Jikai said sadly. "It's good that you know." Lung Ruoxue nodded in agreement. Hearing this, Jikai only felt more depressed. He knew that it was one thing, but Madame had said it so straightforwardly. He had a different feeling in his heart. A faint sorrow covered Jikai's body. Jikai felt sad for a while and then said, "Master, Madam, are we just going to let those bastards go?" Who said, "Well, let them go." Lung Ruoxue blinked and asked, But didn't Master let them go?" Jikai did not understand. He had seen it with his own eyes in the space. "We let them go so that they won't implicate the star beasts on that planet. Now let's go find them." Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Was she so kind that she would let go of those who had designs on them? Of course, if she said she wouldn't kill them, she definitely wouldn't, because she was very clear that the greatest punishment for these ordinary people was to stay alive. Hearing this, Jikai quickly drove the spaceship to their destinations. Lung Ruoxue's target was all the families in the alliance who were involved in this matter, whether it was the powerful Fan family or a nobody. As long as they were on her list of punishment, she would not let them off. As for their punishment, Lung Ruoxue would strip them of all their wealth and status without exception. After all, these two things were what ordinary people cared about the most. Chapter 30:21. The enemy was too cunning. 5. In an instant, the entire Alliance star system had a major change. The powerful families lost everything overnight and were now in debt. Although the ordinary people didn't know what had happened, even the dumbest person knew that these families had offended some big shot. Now that the big shot was angry, the powerful families were all back to square one without exception. As a result, the Alliance star system was surprisingly harmonious. However, Lung Ruoxue's actions had caused several advanced civilizations' star fields to fall into the state of an elementary civilization's star field. Some of them were even worse than an elementary civilization's star field. Jikai, who was originally from a star field with an elementary civilization, only felt his hatred being vented. It was all because those guys from the advanced civilizations had their eyes on top of their heads. Now they were on the same level. Lung Ruoxue didn't say anything about Jikai's gloating. At this moment, they were guests in the Muyuan galaxy. Due to Lung Ruoxue and the demon's interference, the Muyuan royal family could be said to be the only outstanding one in the entire star field. Of course, this was also the result of the Muyuan royal family's timely surrender. The Muyuan emperor was quite glad about this, but he did not know what instructions the three of them had for him. With caution, Emperor Muyuan treated Lung Ruoxue and the other two as honored guests and tried to find out the purpose of their visit. Although he was more than happy to be able to hug the thighs of these two gods, he was also a little afraid at the same time. Such a tangled mood made him quite troubled. On the other hand, Chao Ming was very casual when interacting with Lung Ruoxue and the other two. Every time Emperor Muyuan saw her, he would break out in cold sweat and be frightened. In reality, Lung Ruoxue and the other two did come here for a small matter. After sweeping through so many families, she had a lot of useless trash in her hands that she wanted to sell. Hence, she thought of the Emperor of Muyuan, this trash can. However, every time she saw the Emperor of Muyuan being anxious and angry, but not daring to ask directly, her evil interests would take effect. After staying in Muyuan Palace for a few days, she finally revealed her purpose before Lung Ruoxue, and the rest decided to leave. Upon hearing that he wanted to sell something to him, Emperor Muyuan immediately agreed, and at the same time, his heart was greatly relieved. However, when he saw the trash that Lung Ruoxue had taken out, he was depressed. The items that Lung Ruoxue wanted to sell to him were all priceless treasures. However, he believed that these items would not be of any use to the other party. Furthermore, the clans that these items once belonged to were now in name only and were in huge debt. After keeping all these dirty things, Emperor Muyuan was not afraid that those families would come for revenge, because they would never have the chance. Not long after the flying ship left the Muyuan galaxy, Lung Ruoxue discovered a stowaway in a corner of the cabin. Lung Ruoxue was speechless as she looked at Chao Meng, who was smiling at her in an attempt to please her. A princess? What was he trying to do? Although she wasn't afraid that Emperor Muyuan would blame her for kidnapping the princess, she couldn't bring this unnecessary princess. After all, they probably wouldn't return to this place in the future. Don't send me back. Seeing that she had been discovered, Chao Meng did not wait for Lung Ruoxue to speak and immediately made the first move. Can you give me a reason? Lung Ruoxue explained patiently. She had a good impression of this little girl and was willing to listen to her explanation. A life is at stake. If you send me back, I won't be able to keep my life. So, please do me a favor and take me with you. Chao Meng said pitifully. You are the princess of the Muyuan galaxy. Who would dare to take your life? Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue's curiosity was piqued. Thanks, when did this happen? Lung Ruoxue asked nosily. Last night. Chao Meng told him the truth. You're a princess, and he dares to hunt you down? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. I dare. Other than the emperor, he doesn't care about anyone else. Chao Meng said, feeling wronged. I see. Lung Ruoxue nodded. When Chao Meng saw this, she immediately seized the opportunity and said, Take me away. All right. Not good. Princess Chao Meng. Lung Ruoxue rejected. You didn't tell me the truth, right? I've already said it. Chao Meng felt even more aggrieved. Then why did that man want to kill you? Logically speaking, even if you forced yourself on him, the one who took advantage of you should be the man, right? It's possible that he's angry, but it's not to the extent that he's hunting you down, right? Lung Ruoxue asked in confusion. I don't know. I only told him that I would take responsibility and ask him to marry me. He said that he would hunt me down, so I ran away in fear. Chao Meng was so depressed that she didn't know what to say. After hearing what she had to say, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but burst out laughing. No wonder. She had finally found the crux of the problem. It was fine if he took advantage of others, but he was a man. It wasn't a big loss, but she took advantage of him and wanted him to marry her. It was no wonder that the man would be angry. What are you laughing at? Seeing Lung Ruoxue's smile, Chao Meng was even more depressed. You look quite smart. Why are you so stupid after taking advantage of me? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. What do you mean? Chao Meng didn't understand, and her IQ plummeted. It's already depressing for a man to be taken advantage of by a woman, and you still want him to marry you. It's no wonder he's angry. Lung Ruoxue explained. So what? If I can marry you, why can't he? The evildoer who had been listening by the side, and had no intention of interrupting, grumbled when he heard Xue Er's words. In his heart, he deeply felt that it didn't matter whether a man married a woman or a woman married a man. As long as the two of them liked each other, what did it matter who married who? It's not like he'll lose a piece of meat. So when he heard his wife's words, he wanted to refute her. It was really nothing to marry a woman. He was the best example. Hearing the demon's words, Lung Ruoxue immediately shut her mouth. How could she have forgotten that she was the one who proposed to him? The evildoer was married to her. Chao Meng could not help but open her mouth wide. She did not dare to speak for a long time. Did this mean that she had heard another big secret? Would she be killed to keep it a secret? Sob. Mommy, help. At this moment, Ji Kai suddenly walked out of the captain's room. When he saw Chow Meng, he was shocked at first, then he said, Master, Madam, we've been surrounded by the starships of Muyuan Starfield. At first, he was still curious about what the starships of Muyuan Starfield were up to. But after seeing Chow Meng, he understood. Let's go out and take a look. After Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, she took the lead and walked out of the cabin. As soon as she went out, she saw a young man standing on the starship. The man was in his 20s. He had a strong and stylish look. He was tall and wore a dark green commander's uniform. At this moment, the man's lips were tightly pursed, and his sharp eyes were fixed on the cabin door behind Lung Ruoxue. Chapter 30:22. The enemy was too cunning. 6. I want to find someone. Afraid that the other party would misunderstand, the man spoke first. Chow Meng. Lung Ruoxue understood. The man nodded. He knew that Chow Meng must be on the other party's spaceship. No problem, he said. Lung Ruoxue turned around and returned to the cabin. After a while, she came back with an extremely unwilling Chow Meng. She threw Chow Meng to the man, and irresponsibly pulled the demon back into the cabin. Outside the spaceship, Chow Meng struggled to call for Lung Ruoxue, but Lung Ruoxue ignored her. Soon both sides went their separate ways. In the room of the flying ship, the demon saw Shuer sitting by the window and looking at the vast universe. He pulled her into his arms and deliberately asked with a smile. What, are you worried about that, Chow Meng? What's there to worry about? That man loves her. Lung Ruoxue said with certainty. Then why do you seem to have something on your mind? The demon said gloomily. I was just thinking that we've been on our honeymoon for a long time. I wonder how Grandpa and the others are doing. I'm starting to miss them. Lung Ruoxue said honestly. Why don't we go home? After thinking for a while, the demon said. Although he had not had enough of the two of them alone, he was already very satisfied to be able to be alone with Shuer for so long. Grandpa and the others might not be waiting for us at home. Lung Ruoxue shook her head when she heard this. Then what should we do? I don't want my wife to be unhappy. The demon said sadly. Continue our honeymoon, of course. If we're fated, we might be able to meet grandfather and the others at some place. Lung Ruoxue cupped her beautiful face and said. The demon nodded. It was not easy to come out. As long as Shuer did not mention going home, he would not take the initiative to ask to go back. Very quickly, Lung Ruoxue's and the other two's flying ship left the entire star region. Not long after they left, a little boy with a cat in his arms suddenly appeared in the vast galaxy. PND and Nov 1. I'm from Big Sister's house. The little boy raised his head and said in a childish voice. The person who asked the question was amused and asked again. What about your sister? I don't know. My sister left me and was taken away by someone. The little child's eyes were glistening with tears, and he immediately received the sympathy of the surrounding crowd, receiving a large amount of love. How pitiful. You're still so young. How can you not have someone to take care of you? Why don't you come home with me first? A woman in her early 30s said sympathetically. No need, I just want to find my sister. The little boy's will was very firm, and his face seemed to say I will never be taken away. Thanks. When the others saw that the little boy was so clever, they also tried to persuade him, but all of them were rejected by the little boy without exception. At this time, the snow-white cat in the little boy's arms was a little impatient, and reached out its sharp claws to the crowd. Most of the onlookers were middle-aged women. When they saw the kitten show signs of losing its temper, they unconsciously took a few steps back. In the end, under the awkward atmosphere, the middle-aged women reluctantly watched the cute baby turn and leave. Seeing that most of the people around him had left, the little boy carried the snow-white kitten to a corner. Immediately after, the snow-white kitten went crazy. You idiot, I told you to find Neo's whereabouts, not to act as a homeless child. You're really stupid. Look at what you've been doing all this time. The little white cat, Song, roared with a face of disappointment. Forming an alliance with Qingju could be said to be the thing that Song regretted the most in his life. This fellow was too stupid. Did it mean that Qingju could not do a single thing that he had asked Qingju to do? Every time it would be angered half to death, and it still couldn't find Niu's whereabouts. It was the same now. The moment he appeared, he was surrounded by people, just like the other places. Song was really about to die from anger. As for Qingju, he was naturally very aggrieved after being scolded. He said with a slightly choked voice, "Why don't you do it?" "Me? If I could come, would I still need you to come?" Song roared, so angry that the fur on his body stood up. "Don't be angry, I've already tried my best." Seeing that Song was angry, Green Vessel quickly comforted him. One had to know that it was not easy to have a companion in this unfamiliar place. He didn't want to be abandoned by Azure. Seeing Green Vessel like this, Song was naturally helpless. He then continued to roar, "Don't dawdle, continue searching. I've already felt Niu's presence here. She definitely came here. Yes, I also feel that my sister is very close to me." Qingju clenched his small fist and said with great effort. After that, the two little fellows continued on their way. This time, Qingju was no longer acting like a poor baby who had been separated from his family. The man and beast turned their eyes to the star beasts in this star field. According to their thoughts, if Niu really came here, in order to keep a low profile, the people here might not have seen her before, but star beasts were different. The majority of the star beasts here had not awakened their intelligence, and those with intelligence were only at the initial stage, unable to speak at all. Thus it was the most correct choice to ask them for information. After all, while Lung Ruoxua might be wary of humans, she wouldn't be too wary of astral beasts. In addition, they were a baby and a little beast, so it was naturally most appropriate for them to find a star beast that couldn't speak to ask about the situation. At the very least, the astral beast would not have the chance to betray them. After setting their sights on the star beasts, the two of them looked for a few relatively high-level star beasts and asked. However, they didn't get any useful information from them. In the end, an astral beast reminded them that they could go to the mainframe of the vast expanse starfield to get information. The words starfield mainframe were unfamiliar to Green Vessel and Sungdu. However, after a simple explanation from the star beast, the two of them finally understood that the starfield mainframe was also a tool spirit. However, the mainframe of the star sector was different from them. The mainframe of the star sector managed network data, while they had a physical body. Following the address provided by Astral Beast, the two of them teleported to the control panel, where the mainframe was located. As soon as the two of them got close, the screen of the mainframe, which had sensed the danger, turned into a mess of code. Suddenly, the entire vast space network was temporarily interrupted. "Get out here!" He squinted his eyes and roared. As soon as it finished speaking, a virtual baby appeared in front of Green Vessel and Azure. Azure looked curiously at the virtual entity that the star sector mainframe had created, and would even reach out to poke it from time to time. Seeing this, the little baby that the star sector mainframe had transformed into became shy. "Don't be like this, don't jab randomly." The virtual baby suppressed his fear and whispered with his head lowered. "Answer a few of my questions truthfully. If I'm satisfied, you'll be rewarded," Azure said as he retracted his claws. Chapter 30-23. The enemy was too cunning. 7. Please ask. The virtual baby knew that the human and beast in front of him were of a much higher level than him, so he didn't dare to be negligent. "Have you seen these two people?" While Tsong was speaking, Lung Ruoxua, an evildoer's image, appeared in front of the star region mainframe. Seeing the two of them, the virtual baby's heart trembled even more. "Why, yes, I've seen him." The virtual baby trembled and said honestly. When Tsong and Qingju heard this, they immediately became excited and quickly asked, "Where are they now?" "They were taken away by the people of the Alliance Council a while ago," the virtual baby said carefully. It was true that the Alliance had set their sights on Lung Ruoxua and the demon. Unfortunately, they were too late. There was no Alliance left. Seeing Tsong's anger, the virtual baby was so scared that it cowered a few times before saying, "I haven't finished." "Then hurry up and tell me," Tsong shouted. "They were indeed taken away by the Alliance, but I received news that the Alliance no longer exists." The families of the people from the parliament were all punished by the legendary powerhouses and lost everything, but I don't know what exactly happened. Because the mainframe of the parliament is above me, I don't know too much about the details. The virtual baby said sadly. He was only the mainframe of the vast space zone, and he couldn't reach the Alliance Parliament. I see. Where's the Alliance Council? Seeing that the other party really didn't know anything, Azure asked. Sue and I told him the coordinates, and was about to return to the main computer to rest and recover his frightened little heart. Who knew that Song had pulled him out of the main computer and left with him? On the way, the white ball of light in Song's hand didn't dare to move, even though he wanted to know what his fate was. After the mainframe of the vast expanse starfield was taken away, the network of the vast expanse starfield went on strike, but Song obviously didn't care about that. They quickly arrived at the star sector where the Alliance Council was located, but all they saw was a scene of devastation. After using their divine senses to search, the two of them could not find Lung Ruoxue and the demon. They found a star beast and asked it for the reason. Then the man and the beast left with the vast distance starfield mainframe. At the same time, the mainframe of the Alliance Council, which was already extremely weak, was also taken away. This unlucky mainframe had managed to survive the laser cannon, but it had ended up in Cold's hands. This made one of the mainframe rather depressed, but against Cold's power, the unlucky mainframe didn't dare to resist and told him everything that had happened in the Alliance Parliament. Song and Green Vessel were furious. Someone dared to bully his sister. Someone dared to bully his girl. After the man and the beast learned the truth, they went to find the criminal to take revenge. Compared to Lung Ruoxue, who had only stripped the other party of their wealth and status, Song and Qingju's methods were much crueler. Their appearance had also caused the other clans, which had already suffered great losses, to become even worse. Thanks after that, they rushed to the Muyuan Galaxy. Muyuan Galaxy was the only galaxy that had not suffered any losses from the Alliance Conference incident that Song and Green Vessel knew of. Hence, it was not hard to deduce that Lung Ruoxue had some ties with the people from Muyuan Galaxy. Without any hesitation, the two of them appeared in front of the Emperor. The Emperor, who had been sitting in his study dealing with official matters, saw the man and beast suddenly appear in front of him. He was so frightened that his little heart couldn't stop trembling. He really couldn't understand how this man and beast had entered his study. Song went straight to the point, ignoring the Emperor's shocked face, and directly asked, "Where's my girl? A talking star beast?" When Song Yi opened his mouth, Emperor Mu Yuan was even more shocked, and his jaw almost fell off. After living for so many years, this was the first time he had learned that star beasts could speak. "Don't compare me to those low-level star beasts." Emperor Mu Yuan. Azure Fire roared as he sensed Emperor Mu Yuan's thoughts. Ugh. Emperor Mu Yuan was embarrassed and at a loss. The strength of the little beast in front of him was so terrifying. It actually knew what he was thinking? However, the other party seemed to be here to ask for information. Who's your girl? After forcing himself to calm down, Emperor Mu Yuan asked carefully. Song didn't say anything more and directly played Lung Ruoxue's image. Looking at the familiar figure on the screen, Emperor Mu Yuan understood. No wonder this little beast could speak. It really wasn't a star beast. They've already left. Knowing that the other party wanted to know Lung Ruoxue's whereabouts, Emperor Mu Yuan quickly said. As soon as he finished speaking, Song and Green Vessel disappeared from his sight. Seeing how the other party came and went without a trace, he was even more convinced that befriending Lung Ruoxue and that demonic man was the right and wise choice. When Green Vessel and Azure learned that Lung Ruoxue had left, they naturally left dejectedly. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue and the demon leisurely arrived at a place that was similar to her previous life, but it was obviously more prosperous. That space was called Planet Indigo. There were no high-tech energy weapons like those in the star fields of advanced civilizations, nor were there any ability users. The humans living in that space, except for a small number who practiced a powerful martial art called ancient martial arts, were mostly ordinary people. However, the scenery there was as beautiful as a painting, so Lung Ruoxue and the demon had arranged for them to stay there and live the lives of ordinary people for the time being. Their residence was a 3-story villa by the sea. Through the window of the room, they could see the vast dark blue sea opposite them. This house was naturally not Lung Ruoxia's house. Instead, it was temporarily rented by her and the demon. Since he had come to a place where ordinary people lived, he naturally had to do as the Romans do. Alright. Lung Ruoxia had to admit that they had no money and no proof of identity, which was why they were unable to purchase land. The people here were not as accepting as the people in the vast expanse star field, which was why Lung Ruoxia was really unwilling to reveal her identity as a god. As trespassers with no identity, Lung Ruoxia and the other two had already learned the true meaning of keeping a low profile. But fortunately, in the eyes of ordinary people, a considerable number of experts here remained mysterious. So as long as they didn't buy fixed assets, no one would check their identity. Of course, they couldn't just build houses here. As such, Lung Ruoxia could only rent one. Chapter 30-24. The enemy was too cunning. 8. Even though the rented house was barely satisfactory, the location was decent, so Lung Ruoxia was pretty satisfied. The only one who was not satisfied was probably Ji Kai. When he was in the high-tech civilization star field, he had finally become a rich man, but he didn't expect that he would become penniless again after being proud for a short time. The alliance dollars that circulated in the Star Alliance were not used here. Ji Kai was very worried. It was really hard to move without money. Glancing at Lung Ruoxia and the demon who were taking a walk by the sea, Ji Kai deeply felt that as a competent butler, he could not let his master and madam be troubled over such a small matter like money. However, when he was renting the house, he had already sold all the items that could be sold without attracting anyone's attention. In a short period of time, he had nothing to sell. Seeing that his pocket was cleaner than his face, he was anxious. Just as Ji Kai was feeling depressed, Lung Ruoxia and the demon had already entered the deep sea. The purpose of the two of them going to the bottom of the sea was naturally not to dive, but to make money. What was the most profitable thing in the sea? In addition to all kinds of fresh and delicious seafood, there were naturally pearls. Lung Ruoxia found out from the internet that the women on planet Netherblue were extremely infatuated with pearls, which were treasures found in the sea. Almost everyone had a pearl accessory, and top-grade pearls that could reach the level of a precious treasure naturally grew in hidden places in the deep sea that no one could destroy. After gathering a lot of high-quality pearls and playing with the fish, the two returned to the shore. At this time, Ji Kai had already discovered that the two of them were gone. He was running around the beach anxiously like ants on a hot pan. When he saw Lung Ruoxia and the demon, Ji Kai quickly went up to them and said with a face full of resentment, "Master, madam, where have you been? I was so worried. What, are you afraid that we'll leave you behind and leave on our own?" Lung Ruoxia laughed and teased. "Madam, why would I think that way?" Ji Kai felt wronged. Although he had such a thought for a moment, it was only for a moment, so he would never admit it. Seeing that he denied her intentions, Lung Ruoxia did not say much. She took out a black pearl the size of a baby's fist and said, "We're going to pick pearls." What a huge pearl! Ji Kai's eyes widened in disbelief when he saw the big pearl. After many days of research, he knew that women's money was the easiest to earn in this world, and women loved pearl jewelry the most. After the surprise, Ji Kai's eyes lit up. Needless to say, he thought of money. A lot of money. Seeing that Ji Kai's eyes had turned into the dollar symbol, Lung Ruoxia smiled calmly. "Don't even think about it, I'm interested in it." "Madam, you have good eyes." Ji Kai was a bit depressed, but he naturally couldn't sell the things that madam liked, so he could only continue to worry. Lung Ruoxia laughed as she looked at Ji Kai's unconcealed disappointment. Then, she pulled the evil demon back to her room. After 3 days of hard work in the room, Lung Ruoxia made a few sets of pearl jewelry and handed them to Ji Kai. "Thanks, sell it." Lung Ruoxia ordered. "I'll go now." With Lung Ruoxia's approval, Ji Kai was full of energy. After seeing off Ji Kai, who was walking on air, only Lung Ruoxia and the demon were left in the huge villa. The demon was naturally happy to be able to spend time with Schwerer alone. Unfortunately, Ji Kai had returned too quickly. He had been out for less than 2 hours. Seeing that his master's expression was not good, Ji Kai quickly explained. Master, the jewelry hasn't been sold yet. The jewelry company needs to raise money, so I came back first. What jewelry company doesn't even have money? He had to raise money to buy a few sets of jewelry? Ji Kai, did you find a weak company? Don't sell Shui Heir's hard work for cheap. The demon was a little dissatisfied. The things that his wife had worked hard for several days. It was not good if they could not sell at a good price. Hearing this, Ji Kai's mouth twitched. It wasn't that the jewelry company didn't have money. He was the one who asked them to pay in cash. Which company would be able to produce such a large sum of cash? Ji Kai didn't forget the look on the face of the person in charge of the jewelry company when he said that he wanted all the money in cash. Master, it's not that the jewelry company doesn't have money, but I'm asking for cash. The few sets of jewelry that Madam gave me were sold for a total of 120 million indigo coins. The other party did not have that much cash on hand at the moment, so the transaction could only be delayed. Not wanting his master to misunderstand, Ji Kai explained. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but burst out laughing. All in cash, how could Ji Kai think of that? However, it seemed that Ji Kai could not be blamed. It was their fault that they did not have any identification, and could not apply for the blue card. But when Lung Ruoxue thought of Ji Kai throwing a pile of money at them when they went out to buy things, she couldn't help but laugh. A week later, Lung Ruoxue and the evil spirit followed Ji Kai to the jewelry company. Besides wanting to see the 120 million in cash, he also wanted to cover for Ji Kai. After all, if Ji Kai was the only one who showed up with so much money, it might cause suspicion. When they arrived at the jewelry company, a middle-aged man immediately came out to greet them. Mr. Ji, you're here. The middle-aged man was extremely friendly. However, he only took one look at Ji Kai before his gaze was immediately attracted by Lung Ruoxue and the demon behind Ji Kai. It was mainly because the two of them were too beautiful, and they deliberately put on a cold, noble and silent appearance, so it was difficult for the middle-aged man to ignore them. However, the middle-aged man had been in the business world for many years. Even though he was curious, he did not show it on his face. After a round of warm greetings with Ji Kai, he asked, "Who are these two?" "They are my bodyguards," Ji Kai said arrogantly, but cold sweat was pouring down his face. "Bodyguard? I didn't expect Mr. Jis bodyguard to be so amazing." The middle-aged man exclaimed in admiration. "This is nothing. In my family, their looks can only be considered ordinary." Ji Kai bragged without holding back. When the middle-aged man heard this, he thought to himself, this Mr. Jis identity is indeed not ordinary. It seemed that it was no coincidence that the other party could take out so many beautiful jewelry. More importantly, the level of craftsmanship of those sets of jewelry was absolutely unprecedented. Even in the next thousands of years, no one would be able to replicate it. As such, those sets of jewelry were naturally more precious and unique. Faced with the middle-aged man's shock, Lung Ruoxue could not help but feel speechless. Chapter 30-25. The enemy was too cunning. 9. After giving Ji Kai a warning look, Ji Kai immediately understood and said carefully, "Mr. Fong, can we make the deal now?" "Of course, the money is ready. We're just waiting for Mr. Ji to hand over the money and the goods." The middle-aged man smiled and invited Ji Kai and the other two into his office. The middle-aged man's office had a small room. When he led Ji Kai and the other two into the room, a room full of cash came into their sight. Towards this, the demon did not feel anything. He did not have any concept of money in his heart. On the other hand, Lung Ruoxue was calm. It was not like she had not seen so much money before. Only Ji Kai was so excited that he couldn't express it. Although he had more alliance dollars in his hands when he was in the high-tech civilization Star Field, that was all done through the internet. It was the first time he had seen so much cash. Immediately, the large denomination of cash dazzled his eyes. But fortunately, Ji Kai was only excited inside, and his face was still calm. So he just randomly picked a few piles and counted them, then gave them to the middle-aged man. When the middle-aged man saw Ji Kai casually put the jewelry in the bag, his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Just how much of a prodigal was this person? Fortunately, The jewelry now belonged to him, so he took out the red velvet box and carefully wrapped the jewelry in several layers before putting it in the safe. The money in the house already belonged to Ji Kai. Seeing Ji Kai put the money into an ordinary sack that was half the height of a man, the middle-aged man was speechless. He couldn't help but complain that Ji Kai was not as casual as he usually was. However, he clearly could not control the other party's actions. Ji Kai only filled up 5 sacks with money. Then Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 carried the 5 sacks filled with money and walked out of the jewelry company in a carefree manner under the twitching gaze of the middle-aged man. Even though Lung Ruoxue really wanted to keep the money, she resisted the urge to do so as not to attract attention. She thought to herself, this is a place for ordinary people. Don't do things that don't match the customs of the people here. With this thought in mind, Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 pretended to be calm as they carried the gunny sacks of money and walked on the streets. The 3 of them did not have any means of transportation. Apart from Lung Ruoxue, Ji Kai and the demon did not think of buying a car. Of course, it was mainly because they were penniless before. The little money they had was used to pay for the rent. Therefore, other than living in a villa, the 3 of them were living below the poverty line. Now that she had money, Lung Ruoxue naturally thought of the car problem. With a sweep of her divine sense, she knew that there was a 4S shop nearby, so she directly brought the evildoer and Ji Kai there. When they arrived at the entrance of the 4S shop, Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 were blocked. I'm sorry, we don't have any trash to sell here. The shop's receptionist saw that Lung Ruoxue was too beautiful and didn't like her. She also saw that Lung Ruoxue was dressed so ordinarily that she didn't look like a rich person. On top of that, she was carrying a gunny sack in her hand. Naturally, she treated her like a rubbish collector. The moment Lung Ruoxue heard this, her beautiful face turned cold. The anger in her heart rose. Was she a rubbish collector? I want to buy a car. Lung Ruoxue knew very well that the best way to punish someone who looked down on others was to throw money at them. Hence, she would not engage in a verbal battle with a waiter. That would lower her status. Thanks, how can you say that? How can we not afford it? As long as we're willing, we can even buy your shop. Ji Kai said unhappily. How much is it? The evildoer's face was also black as he suppressed his anger and looked at the hostess. At this moment, the hostess realized that there was a devastatingly beautiful man standing in front of her. How could she not have noticed him before? It was all that woman's fault for setting the wrong target. However, it was obviously too late to remedy the situation now. The hostess wasn't stupid. She knew that she was no longer welcomed, so after being stunned for a moment, she put on a disdainful expression and said in a high and mighty tone, I'm priceless. I'm afraid you can't afford me. Just as well, I didn't plan on buying you. The demon smiled faintly. Then why did you ask me how much it was? The hostess was furious and asked, Can't I even ask? Originally, I was still lacking a little servant girl at home, and I planned to buy you if the price was right. Who knew that a good like you could be priceless? Forget it, I'll just buy a car. Lung Ruoxue finished the receptionist's sentence and was about to walk into the shop. Seeing this, the hostess immediately stepped forward to stop them. Lung Ruoxue was impatient and gave Ji Kai a look. Ji Kai understood and knocked the hostess unconscious with a hand chop. Then the 3 of them walked into the shop. This was a world that looked at one's appearance and clothing. Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 were dressed in ordinary clothes, so no one paid them any attention when they entered the store. However, the 3 of them obviously did not mind, and they were happy to have some peace and quiet. The 3 men who were carrying the gunny bags looked around. In the end, Lung Ruoxue had her eyes on the latest sports car that was worth close to 10 million. This sports car had a black streamlined body and was extremely beautiful. Lung Ruoxue had also taken a liking to this car's eye-catching appearance. As for its performance, she naturally did not care too much about it. Of course, such an expensive car would naturally have outstanding performance. After taking a fancy to it, she planned to pay for it. Ji Kai felt a little heartache at the price of the car and whispered, Madam, this car is too expensive. I think we'd better pick a cheaper one. Anyway, we don't have much time to use a car, so there's really no need to buy such an expensive one. It's in this car. Lung Ruoxue said with certainty. They didn't really need it to be so expensive, but she had just become a nouveau riche, so she wanted to use money to crush these snobbish fellows. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue had made up her mind, Ji Kai could only follow her instructions. He shouted, "We want to buy a car. Is there anyone who can help us?" He shouted 3 times, but the service staff in the shop were busy with their own things and no one came. Seeing this, Ji Kai's anger grew, and he continued to shout, "If no one cares, well, just drive this car away." Upon hearing this, a waiter ran over and hurriedly stopped him. "Sir, you can't do this." "Then what do you want me to do? I already said that I wanted to buy a car, but there's no service staff here. Are you going to let the customer wait for you?" Ji Kai shouted. "We're too busy," a service staff member said in a low voice. Ji Kai glanced at the empty exhibition hall and sneered. "Busy? You guys are really busy. Forget it, I can't afford to use you. Get your person in charge to come out." Chapter 30-26. The enemy was too cunning. 10. I'm the person in charge. What can I do for you, sir? Suddenly, a voice interrupted them. A young man with a nervous expression appeared in the exhibition hall. Beside him was the hostess who had been knocked unconscious by Ji Kai. Then Ji Kai and the other 2 heard the hostess complain, "Manager, it's them. They want to rob our store. Call the police." Hearing the words of the hostess, Ji Kai was speechless. They hadn't even thought about robbing. How could they be charged with this? As such, should they satisfy the expectations of this hostess? While Ji Kai was hesitating, the young manager had already turned around and glared at the hostess. Then he smiled at Ji Kai and said, "Sir, I'm sorry. My staff must have misunderstood you. I know that you're not that kind of person. That might not be the case." Ji Kai glanced at the young man and said lightly. Hearing Ji Kai's words, Lung Ruoxue almost laughed out loud. On the other hand, the young man's expression turned ugly. He didn't know how to continue. Then he helplessly walked to Ji Kai's side and said warmly, "Sir, do you want to buy a car? I'll personally serve you. What's your purpose?" Ji Kai suddenly became alert. The young man was depressed when he heard this. What motive could he have? Wasn't it because the shop assistant looked down on him? In his eyes, he could not afford to offend any potential customer. Who knew which one would become his real customer? However, he didn't expect that his enthusiasm would be mistaken as having ulterior motives. He was really wronged. Seeing the young man's aggrieved expression, Lung Ruoxue didn't want to waste too much time here. She immediately said, "We want this one. Cash." Hearing the voice, the young man turned around and saw the outstanding man and woman standing on the other side of the sports car. He was instantly stunned. How could such a person be a robber? "I'm sorry, my shop assistants have offended you before. I hope the 3 lords can be magnanimous and not lower themselves to their level. I will punish them." After the initial shock, the young man apologized. "We're not some big shot. We're just here to collect trash," Ji Kai said gloomily. The young man didn't know what to do. Why couldn't he continue the other person's words? Sensing Ji Kai's anger, the young man could only keep saying good things to calm Ji Kai down. After that, the young man turned his gaze towards Lung Ruoxue and smiled. "This car is a limited edition in the world. There are only 500 of them in the world. Miss, it's an honor to be able to buy it. I should feel honored just because there's a limit of 500 cars." Lung Ruoxue did not wait for the young man to finish his words of praise before she asked indifferently, "Ugh." The young man who had been talking nonstop was immediately at a loss for words. In fact, he just wanted to let the other party know that there were only a few cars. He did not expect the other party to have such a reaction. One must know that compared to the world's population of hundreds of billions, 500 was really a small number. Unfortunately, the other party did not appreciate it. In reality, one couldn't blame Lung Ruoxue for not appreciating their kindness. What was the use of having a limited number of cars to a god? No matter how fast a sports car was, could it be faster than a god's teleportation? The reason why Lung Ruoxue wanted to buy a car was mostly because she wanted to do as the Romans do. After all, they couldn't possibly walk out of the house in public in the future, right? Therefore, the person in charge of the 4S store had expressed the wrong feelings. Quickly go through the procedures. I still have things to do. Lung Ruoxue did not want to waste any more time with the other party, so she immediately urged him on. The person in charge invited Lung Ruoxue and the other two into the office. Just as he took out the card swiping machine, he saw Ji Kai already taking out money from the sack. Thanks a little bit? How long would this take? The person in charge's eyes were dull, and he was in a daze. This was a real nouveau riche, right? It had to be said that Lung Ruoxue's act of throwing money at people had completely shocked the young person in charge, pushing his mental tolerance to the limit. Just then, a shrill scream came from outside. Ark! This is a robbery! Hearing the scream, the young man immediately came back to his senses and ran out of the room. The one who let out the shrill scream was the hostess. The young man saw her and asked nervously, "Where's the robber?" There were quite a few expensive sports cars in the store. If they were really robbed, the losses would definitely be huge. In your room, it's those 3 people. The hostess said fearfully. Nonsense. Don't talk nonsense. When the young man heard this, he immediately reprimanded. However, the hostess seemed to have gone crazy and insisted that the other party had robbed her. No matter how the young man tried to stop her, she was convinced. Hearing the commotion, Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 walked out of the room. She glanced at the troublemaking hostess and asked calmly, "This young lady here claims that we're robbing you, but do you have any evidence? If you don't have any evidence, don't say anything. Otherwise, I'll sue you for slander. The money is the best evidence." Upon hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the hostess hurriedly said. She peeked at the other party and saw that he had a lot of cash in his hands. "Did the money tell you that I robbed them?" Lung Ruoxue was curious. What kind of logic was this? Why would a normal person put cash in a sack? Why are you walking around with so much money? The hostess wanted to use common sense to convince others, but unfortunately, she was facing Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly. "According to what you said, I'm not a normal person? To tell you the truth, I like to put money in gunny sacks and carry them everywhere. Why can't I? Is it against the law to do so? Although the law doesn't say that it's against the law, no one would do that. So, the 3 of you are definitely abnormal." The hostess continued to quibble. "Is it because no one would do this, or is it because you're too inexperienced and have never seen it before? Miss, from now on, you won't feel strange about such things anymore, so don't make a fuss, okay?" Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly. "That's right, don't be like this in the future, it's too embarrassing. Otherwise, we could sue you and put you in jail for framing us. This shop would also be implicated by you. How can a customer who came to buy something rob you? Do you still want to do business?" Ji Kai also pretended to be angry. He was so angry that he laughed. His last sentence was directed at the person in charge. The person in charge broke out in a cold sweat. He glared at the hostess and warned her not to cause any more trouble before he respectfully invited Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 back into the office. Chapter 30:27. The enemy was too cunning. 11. After a series of apologies, Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 expressed that they would not hold it against him. Only then did the person in charge feel at ease. Then he resigned himself to his fate and counted the money. He then quickly went through the procedures for Lung Ruoxue. It was only when he saw Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 out of his sight that the person in charge could finally relax. After that, the receptionist was fired. Lung Ruoxue was driving the new sports car. The evildoer sat in the front passenger seat. Ji Kai could only sit in the back seat unwillingly. During this period, Ji Kai wanted to test the new car's speed more than once, but Lung Ruoxue only asked him one question. "Do you know how to drive?" Ji Kai's thoughts were extinguished. Ji Kai had driven a hover car and a spaceship before, but he had never driven a sports car. "Madam, when did you learn to drive?" Ji Kai couldn't help but ask curiously when he saw how well Lung Ruoxue was driving. "I was born with it." Lung Ruoxue turned around and glanced at Ji Kai, smiling. Ji Kai was speechless. His wife was really too much. Seeing that Ji Kai had finally quieted down, Lung Ruoxue was satisfied. On the way home, They passed by a restaurant with unique decorations. Lung Ruoxue suddenly felt a little hungry, so she pulled evildoer and Ji Kai in to try the delicacies of planet Indigo. This time they didn't carry gunny sacks in their hands, so they naturally weren't treated as garbage collectors. After successfully entering the restaurant, Lung Ruoxue and the other two were about to find a seat when a surprised voice suddenly rang in their ears. "Shuer, is it really you?" Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with question marks, but seeing that the other party was someone she didn't know, she didn't think that he was talking to her. After all, there were many people in the world who called her Shuer. She couldn't possibly think that someone was calling her just because she heard someone calling her Shuer. After confirming that it was a stranger, Lung Ruoxue and the other two ignored the handsome man. When the handsome man saw this, he immediately became anxious and ran to Lung Ruoxue, asking anxiously, "Shuer, you've misunderstood me. There's really nothing going on between me and that woman. I only like you." "Sir, I think you've got the wrong person," Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. "Go away, we don't know you." The demon's face was also black as he roared. "Shuer, how could you do this to me? Do you hate me that much? You actually pretended not to know me and got together with another man. I know you just want to make me angry. Let's not throw a tantrum, okay? Other than you, I won't love anyone else. You have to believe me." The handsome man ignored the demon and said to Lung Ruoxue. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue didn't know what to say. This guy was the male lead in a certain romance drama, right? Right. It was a pity that she was not interested in romance dramas. The demon's face turned even darker, and he was so angry that he wanted to beat someone up. Damn it, meeting a mental patient just for a meal. Today was really a lively day. Ji Kai's eyes widened in disbelief again. Looking at this sudden scene, he also felt that he had encountered too many things today. After a long while, Lung Ruoxue, who had taken a few deep breaths, saw that the unfamiliar man was only looking at her affectionately and had no intention of leaving. She could only repeat, "Sir, I really don't know you." Lung Ruoxue's denial once again caused the handsome man to fly into a rage out of humiliation. He then roared, "Don't tell me your name isn't Lung Ruoxue. Thanks, if she's called Lung Ruoxue, it means that I didn't get the wrong person," the handsome man said excitedly. As for Lung Ruoxue's last sentence, he automatically ignored it. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but roll her eyes. What kind of bandit logic was this? Following that, she heard the man's gentle voice. "Shuer, don't be angry with me. I promise you, I'll ignore that woman in the future." "Stop. Sir, can you please not mention this again? I really don't know you." Lung Ruoxue was going a little crazy. This man looked like a decent human, but why couldn't he understand human language? "Shuer, I've already promised you. Why are you still angry with me?" the handsome man said with a heartbroken expression. Lung Ruoxue was exasperated. "I'm not eating anymore. Let's go home." With that, Lung Ruoxue turned around and left. The handsome man wanted to give chase but was stopped by the demon. When love rivals meet, their eyes turn red. The handsome man's eyes were spitting fire as he glared at the evildoer and roared, "Shuer is mine. Get lost, you third party." Third party? Was he talking about him? The demon was stunned. He was her husband. Why did other men call her a mistress? "Shuer is my wife, you should be the one to get lost." In terms of aura, the demon could definitely defeat anyone. The handsome man was frightened by the demon. He only came back to his senses when the demon and Ji Kai chased Lung Ruoxue out of the restaurant. By the time he gave chase, Lung Ruoxue and the other two had already disappeared. Back at the seaside villa, Lung Ruoxue was still depressed. Seeing that his wife was in a bad mood, the demon quickly comforted her. "Honey, that idiot must have mistaken you for someone else. Don't be angry." "You're not angry?" Lung Ruoxue asked curiously when she saw how nonchalant the demon was. "Of course I'm angry too. But that person is an idiot, and we're the ones who are tired from fighting an idiot. That's why we can't do that kind of losing business, don't you think?" The demon coaxed. "Yes." Lung Ruoxue nodded. Actually, she was mainly afraid that the evildoer would get angry because of this, so she pretended to be depressed. Now that the evildoer didn't even take this small matter seriously, she naturally wouldn't mind. After all, those people were just passers-by to them. It was obvious that they had quickly forgotten about the unpleasantness of that day. Chapter 30-28. You have a child. 1. In the next few days, Ji-kai was completely immersed in his passion for the new sports car. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but sigh when she saw this. Men couldn't resist the temptation of a sports car at all. However, the one who stuck to her was obviously different. Lung Ruoxue glanced at the evildoer beside her and asked curiously, "Hubby, aren't you interested in sports cars?" When the demon heard this, he shook his head and said shyly, "My dear wife, I'm only interested in you." Lung Ruoxue did not know how to react. This reply was too mushy. She turned her head stiffly and looked at Ji-kai, who was learning how to drive. However, as soon as she took a look, she saw Ji-kai crash into a huge tree beside the seaside road like a kite with a broken string. The front of the car instantly deflated and gray smoke burst out. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. She knew that Ji-kai was a prodigal. Fortunately, the car had insurance, so she felt a little comforted. After Ji-kai got out of the car gloomily, he ran to where Lung Ruoxue and his evil master were with a sad face. Then he burst into tears. "Ooh. Master, madam, this car is really not sturdy. When I drove a hover car in the past, it was much more off-limits than this sports car. So we were tricked into buying a fake one. I think we should return this car." After hearing Ji-kai's words, Lung Ruoxue really wanted to complain. How could a hover car be the same as a sports car? Those cars were flying in the sky, so they were much more dangerous than sports cars. Besides, no one asked you to drive your sports car into a tree. This prodigal child. After retorting in her heart, Lung Ruoxue only said, "Call the 4S shop. I'll get it repaired." "Do you need money for maintenance?" Ji-kai asked carefully. This was what he was most concerned about. "I'll deduct the money from your salary." Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Ji-kai was stunned. Although he really wanted to ask if he had a salary, he still wanted to ask. However, he didn't dare to ask. After saying, "Oh," Ji-kai resigned himself to his fate and went to make the call. The person in charge of the 4S store quickly sent after-sales personnel to check on the situation. When they saw the car and the tree in close contact, the person's face darkened. This was clearly a man-made accident caused by improper driving. This kind of man-made damage, their shop generally wouldn't give free repair, nor would they provide insurance. However, facing the 3 pairs of eyes that were staring at him, he did not dare to say that he would not give them free maintenance. The gazes of these 3 people were truly too frightening, especially a certain middle-aged man. When she saw him, her eyes glowed like a wolf seeing meat. If he said that he would not give her free repair, she did not know if she could leave this place alive. After hesitating for a while, the person still bravely said, "I'm really sorry, but this accident was man-made, so we can't repair it for free. Even insurance doesn't cover such a situation. PNDN Ovone. Co. Sir, it's not that we don't want to repair it, but we don't want to give it free repair. In your situation, it's obvious that it was man-made. No 4S shop would give it free repair. Also, please forgive me for being a busybody, but with this car's condition, even if you complain to the Consumer Association, you can't change the fact that you can't repair it for free." The man explained patiently. After all, they were in the right. Therefore, he wasn't afraid of the other party making a fuss. "Thanks, you mean we're blaming ourselves for the car?" Ji-kai wasn't stupid. He could tell. "Nonsense. It's clearly the quality of your car that's not good. The car I used to drive, even if it had an accident, it wouldn't have been like this." Ji-kai shouted, "May I ask what kind of car you used to drive?" Hearing this, the person asked curiously, "Floating. That car's much sturdier than your sports car. It won't be damaged at all by such a degree of impact. Compared to my previous car, your sports car is like paper." Ji-kai pestered them. He had decided that he would get free repair from this shop, because he had no money. After hearing Ji-kai's words, the man started to think very seriously in his heart. However, after thinking for a long time, He still couldn't figure out what brand the sports car was. This name was too unfamiliar to him. When Lung Ruoxue saw the after-sales personnel of the 4S store frowning and looking like he was in a dilemma, she almost couldn't control her laughter. In order to save money, Ji Kai was willing to do anything. However, Lung Ruoxue was still very supportive of Ji Kai's life, so she was happy to watch the show. Since she was silent, the demon was even more lazy to talk. I'm sorry, sir, I've never heard of this brand. May I know which factory produced the hover car? After thinking for a long time, the confused after-sales staff finally couldn't help but ask. Although asking such a question made him seem very unprofessional, he was willing to go all out in order to get to the bottom of it. Hearing this, Ji Kai knew he couldn't say anything, so he said in disdain, "It's just a small manufacturer. I'm afraid you won't know even if I tell you. Hurry up and take the car back to fix it. Also, tell your manager that I won't pay a single cent because the quality of your car is not good." After saying that, Ji Kai left everyone behind and swaggered back to the villa not far away with his head held high. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue smiled at the after-sales personnel and said, "I'll have to trouble you to make the quality of this car better." After saying that, she pulled the evildoer and left without looking back. The after-sales personnel who had been left behind was completely dumbfounded. He was being abandoned. He looked at the sports car that had been badly damaged and felt gloomy. He would not be able to explain to the person in charge if he were to drag such a car back. However, the person in charge's words still rang in his ears. After some serious consideration, he resigned himself to his fate and dragged the broken sports car back to the shop. The person in charge of the 4S store was shocked when he saw the sports car being dragged back. This car? How did it end up like this? Without waiting for the person in charge to ask, the after-sales staff took the initiative to explain. When the person in charge found out that the car had been damaged because it had hit a tree, and that the owner of the car had asked them to repair it for free, he was deeply worried. It was not impossible to repair the car for free, because the car was insured. However, the condition of this car was obviously not insured. Therefore, free repair was too much of a loss for them. For a moment, the person in charge didn't dare to make any decisions on his own. Finally, he reported the matter to the head office. Chapter 30-29. You have a child. 2. The next day, the head office sent a vice president who was in charge of this matter. The person in charge of the 4S store accompanied him to the door to discuss this matter with Lung Ruoxue and the other two. Lung Ruoxue and the other two had received a notice from the person in charge early on, and were waiting at home for a certain CEO to come. However, when Lung Ruoxue saw the vice president, she was completely depressed. Because that person was none other than the emotional man she had met at the restaurant earlier. The moment the emotional man saw Lung Ruoxue, he was so moved that his eyes were brimming with tears. His voice also started to choke up. Shue, I finally found you. I didn't expect you to be hiding here." Lung Ruoxue was speechless. She did not hide, alright? She had been living here all along. Besides, she wasn't found by this man. It was a coincidence. Everything was a coincidence. He gave the dark-faced evildoer a comforting look, then turned to glare at Ji Kai. This guy wanted to save some money, but he ended up provoking this emotional man. This was great. There was no place to hide. Lung Ruoxue had already started to think about the possibility of changing her residence. However, after thinking about it for a while, she felt that it was too much of a loss to move to another place for a sentimental man. They had already signed the rental contract with the owner. If they broke the contract, not only would they not get the money back, but they would also have to pay the penalty fee. Damn it! Lung Ruoxue was extremely depressed. The person in charge's jaw almost fell off when he saw the vice president's aggrieved expression. Oh my god! What was going on? Old lovers meeting? It didn't look like it. This was because when Lung Ruoxue and the other two saw the vice president, they clearly showed a rather disdainful expression. Especially the middle-aged man. His eyes were so fierce that he wanted to skin the vice president alive. Based on the above situation, the person in charge was certain that the meeting between the two sides would definitely not be harmonious. He hoped that they would not fight. The person in charge prayed silently. On the other hand, Jikai was as depressed as Lung Ruoxue. He had never thought that this wolf would be summoned to his house. Now his evil master would probably hate him to death. Wu. Jikai glared at the emotional man, wishing that he could make the other party retreat in the face of difficulties. However, it was obvious that the emotional man did not notice Jikai's situation at all. His thoughts were all on Lung Ruoxue. Swear, didn't I already explain it clearly last time? Seeing that Lung Ruoxue had not said a word, the emotional man asked again. Sir, you've got the wrong person. Lung Ruoxue sighed and finally said. When the person in charge heard this, he heaved a sigh of relief. It turned out that the vice president had mistaken him for someone else. Good. He didn't want to offend the three of them, because they didn't look like people to be trifled with. One had to say the person in charge was right. However, the vice president, who had completely fallen into his own fantasy, refused to give up and said with a sad expression, Swear, what do you want me to do? I'll definitely do as you say. Really? Lung Ruoxue was skeptical. She did not think that this man would give up so easily. Of course. To show my sincerity, just tell me what you want. I'll definitely do it. The emotional man promised. All right, then please leave my life. I'm really not the person you're looking for. Lung Ruoxue didn't want to miss the opportunity and hurriedly said. Fix the car while you're at it, Jikai added. Thanks. When the emotional man heard this, his eyes immediately became wet and he said, I'll help you fix the car, but Swear, can you not chase me away? I really can't live without you. We cannot. Master, you've got the wrong person. Lung Ruoxue's attitude was a little forceful. She didn't want to waste any more time with this fellow. Otherwise, this evildoer would definitely be angry. Swear, I will never mistake you for someone else. Even if you turn into ashes, I will still recognize you. The sentimental man said seriously after hearing Lung Ruoxue's words. Lung Ruoxue didn't know how to react. She gave Jikai a you can handle it look and left with the evildoer. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue was going upstairs with another man, the sentimental man wanted to follow her regardless of the consequences. Jikai blocked his way and said, Sir, this is a private place. No one is allowed to approach. I'm not an idle person. I'm Shue'er's fiancé. The emotional man decisively gave himself an identity. Jikai was speechless for a while. Then he laughed evilly. Sir, that's my madam. She doesn't know you at all, so don't think too highly of yourself. Go and find your Shuer. There were many people with the same name in this world. Don't pester someone else's wife, it's immoral. After talking to the emotional man, Jikai turned to the person in charge and said, Hurry up and drag your vice president back, or I won't be polite. Vice President, let's go back first. Upon hearing this, the person in charge was shocked and quickly said to the emotional man. He was really afraid that Jikai would do what he said. It was obvious that he was already angry. However, was it really a good thing for him to know so many secrets? He wouldn't be killed, right? Of course. What made him even more depressed was that he had not even come to an agreement on the conditions. The vice president had agreed to fix it for him. And from the looks of it, it was definitely free. The emotional man was extremely reluctant when he heard the person in charge's words. However, he knew that Shuer had misunderstood him, so she would not forgive him so easily. Hence, he only hesitated for a moment before he obediently let the person in charge pull him away. Seeing the two of them leave, Jikai's heart that was in his throat finally relaxed a little. The moment the two of them left, Lung Ruoxue and the demon walked out of the room. When Jikai saw this, he quickly went to greet him. Then, the three of them began to discuss in the living room. The main topic of discussion was naturally who the Shui that the emotional man was talking about was. Lung Ruoxue thought for a long time, but she still couldn't figure it out. Jikai thought for a while before asking carefully, Madam, are you the only child? I have an older brother. What's wrong? Lung Ruoxue replied honestly, You don't have an elder or younger sister? Jikai asked again. No, I didn't. Lung Ruoxue thought for a moment before saying, Heir. Jikai didn't dare to ask the rest of the question. Otherwise he would be the one in trouble. Seeing Ji Kai's hesitation, Lung Ruoxue asked calmly, "You want to ask me if I have an illegitimate daughter at home, right?" "Madam, I didn't ask that. Do you have a brain? If there's really an illegitimate daughter, would she have the same name as me?" Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Chapter 30. You have a baby. Bria. Then what's going on? Both Ji Kai and Lung Ruoxue could not understand. It must be Qingju's doing. Suddenly, the demon spoke. He had not forgotten that Qingju had once transformed into Shui Er's appearance to trick him into canceling the engagement. He would remember this for life. "Qingju is here too? Why can't I sense it?" Lung Ruoxue did not want to suspect Qingju at all. In her heart, Qingju was very innocent and would never have thought of such an idea. But the demon was quite certain. "Master, who is Qingju?" Ji Kai couldn't help but ask. "He's a detestable fellow," the demon said through gritted teeth. Even though Lung Ruoxue did not really want to treat Qingju as a suspect, the demon had already made up his mind. Lung Ruoxue had no choice but to let him be. A week later, the sports car that Lung Ruoxue had taken for repairs was sent back. Looking at the brand new body, Lung Ruoxue and the other two expressed their satisfaction. The only thing they were not satisfied with was that this car was driven back by the sentimental man. When the demon saw the man, his face immediately darkened without hiding it. However, the emotional man did not mind at all. After his inept advisor's counseling, he became much calmer when he saw Lung Ruoxue. He was no longer like before, playing hard to get. Unfortunately, his target was Lung Ruoxue, and he was destined to fail. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue wasn't even looking at him, the emotional man was very worried. In order not to make Lung Ruoxue feel disgusted, he suppressed the reluctance in his heart and left Lung Ruoxue's villa. After walking for a distance, the emotional man couldn't help but look back every 3 steps. Seeing that the man was really here to give him the car, and didn't continue to pester him, Ji Kai expressed his surprise. Strange. He actually didn't confess his love to Madam. Ji Kai couldn't help but ask. As expected, his words received glares from Lung Ruoxue and the demon. Ji Kai, who only realized later that he had said something wrong, hurriedly excused himself to practice driving and left the sight of his master and Madam. However, in less than half an hour, Ji Kai came back dejectedly. The first thing he said when he saw Lung Ruoxue and the demon was, "Master, Madam, I've damaged the car again." "You hit a tree again?" Lung Ruoxue was speechless. This speed was really fast. "It's not the same tree," Ji Kai explained in a low voice. He had something on his mind, so he accidentally bumped into the tree. "What? From what you're saying, you want to knock down all the trees on the side of the road?" Lung Ruoxue was speechless. What benefits did that guy give you to make you help him like this? At this time, the demon's eyes were also spewing fire as he roared. Ji Kai was dumbfounded. He didn't help a certain someone. How could his master misunderstand him like this? Ji Kai expressed his grievance. Thanks, the evildoer, who was about to go crazy, pulled Lung Ruoxue and left Ji Kai behind to return to his room. Although Ji Kai felt wronged, he still had to inform the person in charge. When the person in charge heard the news, he was dumbfounded. Another crash? Or a tree? Wasn't this speed a little too fast? Facing the person in charge's suspicion, Ji Kai could only insist that the quality of his car was not good. The person in charge was so angry that he almost had a heart attack. After reporting the matter, the vice president ran over in a hurry. Seeing the red-faced vice president with sweat on his forehead, the person in charge couldn't help but sigh. He couldn't keep a child. He had already spent a lot of money repairing Lung Ruoxue and the other two's cars. If he were to do it again, he would have enough money to buy a new batch of cars. At this moment, the person in charge felt that he had made a huge loss by selling the car. However, the vice president didn't think so. How could he not grasp such a good opportunity to get close to his sweetheart? At this moment, he was treating Ji Kai as his benefactor. He rushed to Lung Ruoxue's residence at top speed. The vice president led his men to pull away the sports car that had crashed into the tree. The only regret he had was not seeing Shui Er. However, there was still time in the future, and there would be plenty of opportunities, so he was not in a hurry. Before he left, he didn't forget to give Ji Kai a grateful and encouraging look, as if saying, "Do your best. That's the only way you'll have the chance to come." Facing the man's expectation, Ji Kai was completely worried. He really didn't do it on purpose. Who could he blame for the quality of the car? But now both sides had misunderstood him. Sop. What was he going to do in the future? Although Ji Kai was sad when the car was repaired and sent back, he still drove it and crashed into it again. As a result, the owner ignored him and didn't even give him a good face, while the sentimental man became his best friend. Of course, the so-called best friends was only what the emotional man thought. Ji Kai would not abandon his master and wife for the immediate benefits. Therefore, with the idea of infiltrating the enemy's base to get information, he became familiar with the emotional man. The man's name was Chu Senator. He was the second young master of the Chu family, one of the top 10 families on planet Faint Blue. He was handsome, rich, and had an extraordinary status. He was very popular with women on planet Faint Blue. He was even praised as the diamond-ranked bachelor that women wanted to marry the most. It was said that he was ranked 5th. When Ji Kai found out about this situation, he immediately reported it to his master. Unfortunately, the demon didn't care at all. He was just a mortal. What could he do in the diamond world? What he wanted to know was how that guy knew Shuer. Ji Kai then continued to ask around, and Chu Sun, who treated Ji Kai as a confidant, told him everything he knew. Back then, Shuer and I met at the beach. At that time, she stood alone by the beach, facing the ocean. She looked so lonely, so heartbreaking. With just one look, I fell in love with Shuer at first sight. Later on, I found out that Shuer had been abandoned, and my heart ached for her even more. I also want to know which blind man dared to abandon my Shuer. Somewhere by the sea, Chu Sun, who was chatting with Ji Kai, said. After hearing this, Ji Kai couldn't help but curse silently. From Chu Sen's words, he was very sure that Shuer was not his wife. Based on his master's protective personality, it was impossible for him to abandon his wife. Ji Kai, tell me the truth. Did your master abandon that man Shuer? They've made up now? Just as Ji Kai was complaining to himself, Chu Sen thought of something else. No, you've really got the wrong person. Ji Kai quickly said. Ji Kai, we're so familiar with each other, and I treat you as my friend. Don't lie to me. Chu Sen didn't believe him. Chapter 30-31. You have a child. 4. I swear on my character that my madam is not the person you're looking for. Ji Kai said seriously. Then where is my Shuer? Wu. Shuer, I miss you so much. Why can't we acknowledge each other even though we're so close? Do you really hate me that much? As he spoke, Chu Sen started to choke up again. Ji Kai was speechless when he saw the other party like this. From the looks of it, Chu Sen did not believe him. Watching his evil master go back to his room, Ji Kai was speechless and asked the heavens. In the days that followed, Chu Sen still came to report every other day. Of course, he did not get to see Lung Ruoxua even once. Every time he left, he was extremely disappointed. At the same time, Qingju and Song, who were searching for Lung Ruoxua in the galaxy, suddenly felt that Lung Ruoxua was very close to them. The two of them looked at each other and said in unison, "Nether Blue Star." Before Qingju and Song left, they had left a mark on the people they had met. Hence, whenever the other party's emotions fluctuated, they would be able to sense it. Hence, after knowing that Lung Ruoxua might have gone to the Serene Blue Planet, the two of them rushed over to the Serene Blue Planet. Half a month later, a baby carrying a snowy white kitten arrived at Lung Ruoxua's villa. Standing outside, Qingju and Songdu felt a little nostalgic. At this moment, the door of the villa opened. Ji Kai stuck his head out from inside, but he didn't see the guest that the master and madam had mentioned. Just as he was about to close the door, he lowered his head and happened to see Qingju. Looking at the 1-year-old child, Ji Kai was a little speechless. Whose child was this? Where's Darren? Ji Kai looked left and right. He did not connect the baby in front of him with the guests that Lung Ruoxua and the demon had mentioned. Where's my sister? Seeing someone come out from inside, Qingju was no longer afraid and asked directly, "Sister? Little friend, is your sister missing? Did you call the police?" Ji Kai's heart softened when he saw such a pitiful little girl. "My sister is inside." Qingju pointed at the villa and said helplessly, "Idiot." Song also said. Ji Kai was already surprised when he heard Green Vessel's words. Now he was dumbfounded when he saw a little white cat cursing at him. He couldn't speak for a long time. Seeing that he was in a daze, Qingju sighed softly and had no choice but to go in himself. His sister must be waiting for him. It was not until Green Vessel walked past Ji Kai that Ji Kai suddenly woke up, turned around and shouted, "Master, madam, the cat is talking." After shouting, he ran into the courtyard. Lung Ruoxue and the demon in the living room were speechless when they heard this. Green Vessel was also speechless. Only Tsang was calm. Just as Lung Ruoxue stepped out of the living room, Song had already turned into a ray of white light and flew towards her. Green Vessel did not want to be outdone, and also flew forward like an arrow. Seeing this, Ji Kai was dumbfounded again. Thanks sensing Ji Kai's thoughts, Green Vessel turned around and said in disdain while running, "What's a flying ship? You can even compare to me." After saying this, he plunged into Lung Ruoxue's embrace. Song Zi was one step ahead of him and occupied the best position. These two guys were extremely fast. Even if the demon wanted to stop them, he was a step too late. He could only glare at the man and cat with his fire-spewing eyes. Ji Kai, who had suffered a heavy blow, was speechless for a long time. "Sister, I missed you so much." After disdaining Ji Kai, Green Vessel looked up at Lung Ruoxue and said coquettishly, "I've finally found my sister. I'm so happy." Qingju felt that he was satisfied. It was the same for Azure. It only realized how much it missed Lung Ruoxue when it saw her. On the other hand, the demon's face was black. When he saw these two guys, he knew that his two-person world was over. But now, if he wanted to leave with Schwer alone, it would not be so easy. Forget it. He should be satisfied after being alone with Schwer for so long. I really can't be too greedy. I missed you guys too. After consoling the evildoer, Lung Ruoxue carried Qingju and Song back to her room to catch up with the two little fellows. Ji Kai had a stomach full of questions. When the demon heard this, he only said in anticipation, "It would be great if someone could really kidnap them. But what a pity. Those two guys are not human, and no one can kidnap them." Oh heavens and earth. What did he mean by not human? Ji Kai didn't dare to think further. In the days to come, he would have two more young masters. After knowing that Ji Kai was the demon's target, Song and Qingju immediately treated Ji Kai as a thorn in their side. The man and cat ordered Ji Kai around every day, but Ji Kai didn't dare to speak out in anger. He didn't even know why he was rejected by the little boy and the kitten. He didn't think he had done anything wrong. Other than being a little too shocked when he first saw them, there was really nothing else. However, after a few days of interaction, he was already quite calm when facing Tsang who could speak. Since he had masters like the evildoer and Lung Ruoxue, it was not a big deal to know a cat that could only talk. Ji Kai, who had calmed down, did his best to serve everyone in the family, who knew that just as he got used to this kind of life, Chu's son, who had not appeared for some reason, actually moved next door and became their neighbor. Ji Kai, who knew all this, suddenly felt terrible. Seeing Chusen come to visit him as his new neighbor, Ji Kai really wanted to just faint. It was not enough that he came to see him almost every day, and now he even moved next door. What the hell was this? Looking at Chusen, Ji Kai gave up. However, the evildoer was not as angry as Ji Kai had imagined. He smiled and invited Chusen into the living room to receive him warmly. Ji Kai couldn't believe his evil master's abnormal behavior. In fact, not only the evil master, but even the madam, the little Qingju, and the snow-white cat named Song were very calm when they saw Chu Senator. The only one who was not calm was Ji Kai, an ordinary human. Ji Kai calmed down his complicated feelings and stiffly went to pour tea for Chu Senator. Chusen, who had just sat down in the living room, looked at Lung Ruoxue affectionately. His gaze was immediately attracted by the snow-white cat in her arms. Chapter 30-32. You have a child. 5. He was too familiar with this cat. When he saw Lung Ruoxue and the white cat, Chusun was even more certain that this woman was the woman he had been looking for. Suppressing the joy in his heart, Chusun chatted as if nothing had happened. Swear, your cat looks so familiar. I think I've seen it somewhere before. Oh really? White cats are very common. There's nothing to be surprised about. Lung Ruoxue replied half-heartedly, obviously uninterested in this question. That's true. However, your cat is of a very pure breed, and its fur is very bright. I can tell that it's a very rare and precious cat. Chusun praised. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue's reaction was very calm, but Song almost couldn't control himself and wanted to scratch her. You bastard! You're the one with a pure breed. Your whole family is pure breed. Song wasn't a real cat, so it hated people saying that about it. However, it felt a little guilty facing Chu Senator. It was even more afraid that the evil man would notice something. Hence, it could only suppress the burning anger in its heart and lay quietly in Lung Ruoxue's arms, pretending to be noble and cold. At this moment, Song heard Chusun continue. Yes, is yours a male or a female? It's probably a male. Lung Ruoxue was not too sure. It's a male. The demon was certain. That's great. I have a pure-blooded female cat at home. I think we can let them mate. I believe that the baby they give birth to will be purer. What do you think? Chusun laughed. After days of thinking, he decided to change his strategy and try to integrate into her family. He believed that in time, Shuer would be touched by his deep love. Who knew that just as he finished speaking, the teacup in front of Lung Ruoxue was flipped over by the furious Song. Of course, Chusun didn't think that it was out of anger. He just thought that the cat didn't mean it. At a place where he couldn't see, Song's sharp claws had already reached out. However, it was stopped by Lung Ruoxue. After all, there was nothing wrong with what he said. But Song was furious. Your sister. It was not interested in female cats. However, the evil demon was obviously very interested in this topic and pulled Chusun to ask him seriously, as if he was responsible for his cat. Chusun also showed great sincerity and answered almost all of their questions. In the end, the two of them reached an agreement to find a chance to let the two cats get along. After sending Chusun off, the evil demon smiled at Song. Song, you're a person with a partner in the future, so you can't be willful anymore. Damn it. I don't like female cats. With no one else present, Azure no longer had to hide himself. He roared at evildoer angrily and even flashed his sharp claws. I really want to grab the pretty boy of the demonic man and kill him. How could he be so annoying? However, although he thought about it, Azure didn't dare to fight with the evildoer here, because Neo had warned them that this was the world of mortals. They could bicker, but they were forbidden from fighting. In particular, it was forbidden to fight with demons. Otherwise, Planet Dark Blue would be destroyed in their hands. Song, who would always listen to Lung Ruoxue, naturally didn't want to make his girl angry. As for evildoer, he wouldn't do anything that would make his wife unhappy. Under the situation where both of them were deliberately restraining themselves, the man and beast seemed to be at peace. It was because of this that even though the demon suspected that Chusun was provoked by Tsong and Green Vessel, he did not question them officially. He would only mention this person occasionally. Thanks as for Tsong and Qingju, they pretended not to know Chu Senator. However, the demon wasn't angry. It would be abnormal if the two detestable people were willing to admit to this. Hence, with an unknown motive, he decided to temporarily put aside his hostility towards Chu Senator. It was this thought that made him warm up to Chu Senator. Lung Ruoxue was smart enough not to get involved in the daggers-drawn battle between the man and the beast. After all, neither of them would be at a disadvantage. Meanwhile, Ji Kai, who had already sensed that the atmosphere was not right, had already sneaked into an empty corner and pretended to be dead. Leaving behind Song and Demon, Lung Ruoxue left the living room quietly. The moment Lung Ruoxue left, Azure immediately exploded with anger and pounced towards the evil demon. However, it could only scratch him a few times at most and didn't dare to cause any destruction in the living room. Otherwise, if Neo got angry, she would ignore it. However, evildoer didn't care about Cold's attack at all. With a light wave of his hand, cold was sent flying. Then he patted his sleeves and chased after his wife without a trace. After Song was thrown away, Jikai came out from the corner and asked the calm green vessel curiously, "Young Master Qingju, aren't you worried that your pet has gone missing?" Upon hearing this, Qingju raised his head calmly and said, "That's not my pet, it's big sister S." If his sister was not worried, what did he have to worry about? Moreover, that fellow was not someone to be trifled with. After he finished speaking, Green Vessel returned to his room. In the face of Green Vessel's confidence and the information he revealed, Jikai understood. No wonder he had always felt that there was something strange going on between the young master of Green Vessel and that talking cat. So this was what happened. Jikai, who finally understood their complicated relationship, calmed down. Not long after, Song, who had been thrown away, calmly walked back from outside. The next day, an uninvited cat came for a blind date. Without a doubt, the owner of the female cat was Chu Sr. Looking at the golden female cat lying in front of him with a shy expression, Song Tioyu was speechless for the first time. Why did this so-called blind date make it so annoyed? How should I get rid of this feeling of wanting to scratch someone? Song was furious. He was so angry that he was about to explode. What made it even more unbearable was that the female cat seemed to be very satisfied with it and kept meowing at it. What's the point of calling? Please speak in human language. Azure didn't have any patience for beasts that couldn't be communicated with. It only felt irritable and easily angered. It really wanted to torture people. My house's Song seems to be very satisfied with your house's Ahua. Why don't you let Ahua stay and spend more time with Song? Your sister, who would be interested in a flower. It did not. It could not understand why a golden kitten was called Ahua. From this, it could be seen that the owner's taste was not very good. Moreover, it was not even the size of a palm, and that Ahua was obviously much bigger than him. It looked like a tiger with a bear's waist. Luan couldn't understand. The damn evildoer did it on purpose, but did that human man not think that it could be a little kitten? Chapter 30-33. You have a child. 6. Did they not feel any guilt at all for letting such small cats breed? The truth proved that Chusen really didn't feel any guilt. He even felt that it was fine to be a little younger now. He could be a son-in-law to cultivate feelings from a young age. What a wonderful thing. The two cats were childhood sweethearts and innocent playmates. He didn't even need to think to know that his idea was the right one. Most importantly, this would make it convenient for him to be in a favorable position, which was exactly what he wanted. Now that he heard the demon asking him to keep Ahua, wouldn't he, as the master, have more opportunities to get close to the person he liked? The roundabout strategy would definitely succeed. Chusen firmly believed in it, so he agreed to the demon's suggestion without thinking. All right, I'll leave Ahua to you then. Then Chusen, who left Ahua behind, continued to sit for a while before leaving reluctantly. The lonely Ahua, from then on, regarded Song as her husband and followed him wherever he went. The little female cat's performance almost made Song go crazy. Every time it was annoyed, it would kick Ahua away, but the indomitable Ahua would always run back and stick to it again. Lung Ruoxia, the demon, Jikai, and Green Vessel were all deeply touched by Ahua's determination. This was a cat that was brave in the face of love. Unfortunately, Song wasn't touched. In fact, he only felt annoyed. Fortunately, Ahua was a simple-minded person. On top of that, the food at Lung Ruoxia's place was pretty good. It ate to its heart's content, so even if it was abused, its life was still quite comfortable. Ahua was nourished, but Song's days would not be good. For Ahua's sake, her own girl even warned it to treat the cat better, saying that it was too fierce. After all, the other party was just an ordinary cat, and it could not stand being kicked. Azure felt wronged. After living for so long, this was the first time it had encountered such a thing. It really didn't know how to deal with it. After thinking for a long time, Song made up his mind that he couldn't go on like this, so he asked Ahua to the beach to have a heart-to-heart talk with her. Watching the two cuties leave, Jikai, who had been secretly watching, couldn't help but worry. he said to Lung Ruoxue and the demon. Master, madam, Song wouldn't snap that little kitten in a fit of anger, right? Jikai was really worried. He had been taking care of the cat all this time, so he had developed feelings for it. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she only looked at Jikai calmly and said, Song wouldn't be so cruel to an ordinary cat. It had to be said that Lung Ruoxue understood Song well. Song had invited Ahua to the beach just to have a good chat. The two kittens walked on the beach, one in front and one behind. Song walked in front, and Ahua followed behind. After a while, Song stopped and turned to look at Ahua. Ahua, you're a good cat, but we're really not suitable for each other. Meow meow. Ahua couldn't understand human language, but it felt like it had been rejected. It couldn't help but ask why. Look, we don't even understand each other's language. You don't even know a foreign language. Azure said with a regretful expression. Meow meow. Ahua called out a few more times as if to say, don't be like this, I really like you. Thanks, I said we don't speak the same language, please speak human language. Song Yun said angrily. Was it wrong to like a cat? Why did you treat it like this? Ahua was very sad. Song was its first love. It didn't want to give up just like that, so it meowed a few more times anxiously, as if to say, my dear, no matter what, you're not satisfied with me, it'll change, so please give me a chance. Dream on. There will be no chance between us, and there will be no future. Just give up. Ahua, go and find a real cat. I'm not. Song understood what Ahua was saying, so he firmly refused. He couldn't let this cat sink deeper. These despicable humans were disrespecting cat rights. A good cat that had its first awakening of love was destroyed in the hands of a group of hateful humans. Song suddenly felt injustice for Ahua. The conversation between the two cats was also heard by Lung Ruoxue and the others. Lung Ruoxue was very surprised by Song's performance. She didn't expect Song to have such a literary side. Ahua, you're a good cat, but we're not suitable. These words were too familiar. This was clearly what a scumbag would say when he rejected a woman he was infatuated with. Of course, Song definitely wasn't a scumbag, but she suddenly wanted to know where he learned this from. As for the little female cat, her stubbornness surprised Lung Ruoxue. It seemed like they had hurt the heart of an innocent little female cat. Lung Ruoxue felt guilty. In fact, she didn't stop the evil spirit from pairing Song, because she knew that Song couldn't have anything to do with an ordinary cat. However, she didn't expect this little female cat to be so infatuated with him. For a moment, she felt like she was riding a tiger and couldn't stop. After Song communicated with the infatuated Ahua, it saw that the other party was still so stubborn. It didn't know what to do. It should know that it had never dealt with such a difficult matter before. Even when it faced the fog, it had never felt such a pain in the ass. But now, an ordinary kitten made it deeply conflicted. After returning to the villa, Song didn't give anyone a good face, and went upstairs alone. Ahua hesitated and wanted to follow, but he didn't dare. He didn't stop circling the stairs. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she stepped forward and carried Ahua. She said helplessly, Ahua, I'll send you home. She couldn't let this little female cat live here anymore. Otherwise, she would feel even more guilty if something irreparable happened. Who knew that Ahua would understand her words and jump out of Lung Ruoxue's arms with a whoosh. It then hid under the sofa in the living room and refused to come out. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue only felt a deep sense of helplessness. Call Chu Sun and ask him to take Ahua away. Lung Ruoxue instructed Ji Kai, then pulled the evildoer upstairs to communicate. After receiving Ji Kai's call and asking for the reason, Chu Sun immediately rushed over. But the stubborn Ahua refused to leave with it. It even looked like it was going to leave the house with it. Chu Sun was helpless about this. Ahua was his mother's life. He had borrowed it from his mother, so he really didn't dare to use force on Ahua. Otherwise, if this stubborn little female cat got lost, his mother would break his legs. Seeing that Chu Sun, the owner, couldn't do anything to his cat, Ji Kai didn't know what to say. Just like that, Ahua was left behind again. From that day on, in order to avoid the fate of being taken away, Ahua hid under the sofa all day long. He would only come out for a walk when it was time to eat, and from time to time, he would look at Song with resentment. Seeing Ahua like this, Lung Ruoxue felt helpless. Chapter 30-34. You have a child. 7. Song completely ignored Ahua. Anyway, he had already said what he needed to say. It couldn't be helped if the little female cat didn't listen. Gradually, Lung Ruoxue and the rest found a way to get along with Ahua, and even adapted to Ahua's existence. As for Ahua, it seemed that as long as she could see Song every day, she would be very satisfied. A month later, a beautiful middle-aged woman came to him. This beautiful middle-aged woman was Chu Sen's mother. She had come with the excuse of taking her cat home, but her main purpose was to see the person her son liked. Ever since the prodigal child at home said that he wanted to use his beloved cat to chase a girl, she had been hoping that the brat would bring back a wife. Who knew that after so long he had not seen his wife and his beloved cat could not come back? It was understandable that it was not easy to get a wife. After all, good girls were hard to find. Why couldn't he bring back the cute cat? Mama Chu was very worried. Could it be that her beloved cat, which she had raised as her daughter since she was young, no longer belonged to her now that she could not see her wife? With this worry in mind, she personally visited. After seeing Lung Ruoxue, she instantly understood her son's desire for a wife. This girl is so pretty. She was even more beautiful than she had imagined. Since he was young, there were many girls around his son, but compared to the girl in front of him, those girls were like bald chickens without feathers. In an instant, she decided to give her son a helping hand. However, when she heard that the man beside Lung Ruoxue, who was even more devilish than her own son, was her future daughter-in-law's husband, she was dumbfounded, sorrowful, depressed. All sorts of emotions were tangled together. Sob. Mama Chu was sad. Her outstanding son had actually become a mistress, and had even entered the family to snatch the wife of the man's real husband. What was this? At that moment, she was so conflicted that she did not know how to face Lung Ruoxue. Although she was envious of her beautiful daughter-in-law, she was not shameless enough to destroy someone's family. Plus, she could not take Ahua away. So after sitting for a while, the depressed mother Chu found an excuse to leave. After Mama Chu left, Lung Ruoxue, who felt that the situation had become serious again, finally put on a stern face and said to Qingju and Song coldly, "Do you two have anything to say?" She had been waiting for these two little guys to confess, but after so long, they didn't say a word about it. Now that Lung Ruoxue had asked, the two of them lowered their heads in unison, refusing to look at Lung Ruoxue. They were feeling guilty. They were indeed the ones who had caused the incident, and they had not expected such serious consequences. "Sister." After a long time, Qingju raised his head and looked at Lung Ruoxue pitifully. "Aren't you going to explain the matter clearly?" Lung Ruoxue said angrily. "It was me who became my sister's appearance and got to know him. However, I didn't do anything to that guy that I shouldn't have done. It was completely that guy's wishful thinking." Qingju told the truth. Hearing this, the demon revealed an expression of "I knew it." Ji Kai, on the other hand, was even more surprised. He thought to himself, this little boy is so powerful. He could actually transform into Madam. You really didn't do it? Then why would he do something so strange to me? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. "Sister, I swear that I didn't do anything. Back then, because I couldn't find you, I changed into your appearance in many spaces. I wanted more people to know you. That way, when those people see you, they will recognize you. I also left a mark on their bodies, so when their emotions fluctuate, I will sense it. That's how I can find you." Qingju explained. Thanks, however, his explanation caused Lung Ruoxue and the demon to feel extremely annoyed. "Swear, don't stop me. I want to teach this bastard a lesson." After he finished speaking, he did not give Lung Ruoxue a chance to stop him. The evildoer lifted green vessel and walked upstairs. Not long after, Qingju's cries could be heard from upstairs. Ji Kai couldn't bear to hear this. After all, he was a baby. Master really had the heart. After he told Lung Ruoxue his thoughts, Lung Ruoxue said to Ji Kai calmly, "It's fine. Qingju's skin is rough and his flesh is thick. It won't hurt even if I hit him a few times. Jikai was silent. A little baby can be considered to have rough skin and thick flesh? However, he didn't dare to ask such a question again. As for Lung Ruoxue, after she finished speaking to Jikai, she turned her gaze to her chest and looked at Song. Song, this was your idea, right? How did you know? Azure replied in a low voice. Other than you, Qingju shouldn't be able to think of such a bad idea. Lung Ruoxue was very certain. Girl, why didn't you think of me when something good happened? Azure felt wronged. It's not like you to do good things. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Song was very worried, but Jikai didn't dare to listen any further, as he might have heard some secret. He didn't want to be retaliated against later. At this moment, the evildoer who had finished dealing with Green Vessel came down from upstairs and pointed at Song. Song, come here, I promise I won't beat you up. No way. Evildoer wanted to cut Song into 8 pieces. Before this, he had already concluded that Green Vessel and Song were behind this without any evidence. Now that Green Vessel had confessed his crime, Song would not be able to escape. Therefore, the next person he had to deal with was Song. However, Song was not as stupid as Green Vessel. It knew that the evil man wanted to take care of it, but it still gave itself to him. It escaped from Lung Ruoxue's embrace. At this moment, Niu was also in a fit of anger, so she might not cover for it. You still dare to run? The demon was furious and quickly gave chase. The man and the cat chased each other along the beach. Fortunately, it was late autumn now, so there weren't many people wandering around the beach. Otherwise, Lung Ruoxue would have a headache. When evildoer finally caught up to Song, he grabbed the struggling Song and took out a sharp knife. After a few strokes, all of Song's white fur was gone. Evildoer knew that he couldn't beat Azure up because Azure was too small. It wasn't convenient for him to beat Azure up, so he thought of this punishment. As for the hairless Song without its fluffy fur, it was like a rabbit that had just been born, its body pink and tender. This new image made Azure lose all its old face. It didn't have the face to see anyone. The heartbroken Song entered the room and refused to show his face. The demon's mood was greatly relieved after getting his revenge. In the end, they still needed Qingju to step in. Qingju, who was extremely unwilling, could only turn back into Lung Ruoxue's appearance and wait for Chu Sen to come. Chapter 30-35. You have a child. 3 days later, her mother and Chu Sen came together. The moment they saw 2 identical Lung Ruoxues, both mother and son were extremely shocked. The 2 women in front of them were exactly the same in terms of appearance and temperament. Even their names were just the same pronunciation but different. The mother and son were shocked for a long time before they slowly recovered. Facing this scene, Jikai sympathized with the mother and son. Back then, when he saw Qingju transform from a little boy into his wife, he was stunned for a long time. Even now, he still felt like he was dreaming. She's my sister. I only found out about her existence 2 days ago. Lung Ruoxue gave the other party some time to digest the information before she explained. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the mother and son were overjoyed. Mama Chu even held Qingju's hand affectionately and stared at him. Chu's son revealed a rare shyness. He felt embarrassed that he had really gotten the wrong person. After a brief introduction of both parties, Lung Ruoxue pulled the demon away. He had finally solved this big problem for himself. But now, it seemed like Green Vessel was in big trouble. Because the mother and son were extremely satisfied with Qingju, Mama Chu, who was initially afraid that her son would be a mistress, felt her gloomy mood vanish with Qingju's appearance. Chu's son was not the eldest son, so his mother did not need him to find a woman of equal social status. Everything was based on his son's wishes. It could be said that his mother was very open-minded on this point. Sensing that Chu Sen's mother was really happy, Lung Ruoxue almost wanted to marry Qingju to Chu's senator. What a pity. Qingju was a fake woman. Lung Ruoxue and the demon who had returned to their rooms were enjoying the scene in the living room through the screen. Both of them were in a very good mood. On the other hand, Qingju was so depressed that he was about to cry. Faced with other people's enthusiasm, Qingju was 100,000 times not used to it. Who can help to pull away this creature called mother? Qingju, who was born and raised by the heavens and had no mother, could not understand the love a mother had for her son. His uneasiness was mistaken for shyness by his mother. The more she looked at Qingju, the more satisfied she was with him. She quickly turned from a guest to a host and greeted Qingju, even treating him as her future daughter-in-law. Chu Sun, who was sitting opposite Qingju, lowered his head shyly. His little face blushed as he peeked at his sweetheart from time to time, his heart beating wildly. Mother Chu almost laughed out loud when she saw the embarrassment on the pair's faces. When had her son ever been this shy? It seemed that having someone in her heart was indeed different. Mama Chu looked at the perfect couple and was very satisfied. However, how could the two of them just sit there and not scam him? The anxious Mother Chu thought for a while before she affectionately took Qingju's hand and placed it in her son's hand. Qingju was shocked and quickly retracted his hand. He looked at Chu Sun in horror. Mother Chu was bewildered by this scene. She did not expect the girl in front of her to be so timid and shy. However, this kind of girl was also good. She was so innocent. As for Qingju, who could read minds and knew that the man's parents were quite satisfied with him, when he found out what Mama Chu was thinking, he wanted to look up to the sky and roar. He wasn't shy, okay? After living for so long, his little meaty paws had never been touched by any stinky man. This made him rather worried. Sob. His innocence. Just like that, there was no return. At this moment, Qingju was extremely regretful. Why did he listen to Tsong's bad idea and turn into his sister to cast the net? Now she was being pestered. Thanks, yes. He felt so wronged. Song was also involved in this, but that bastard Song was hiding in his room. Thinking about this, Green Vessel was so angry that he shouted, "Song, get out here." His shout was full of anger and it gave the mother and son a big scare. Both mother and son could not help but widen their eyes and open their mouths. They looked at the beautiful Qingju in disbelief. What Mother Chu thought was that this girl was so manly. Chu Sin was obviously shocked. All along he had thought that his sweetheart was a cute and helpless girl. But now, the little bird had suddenly turned into an eagle. It was no wonder he was shocked. However, Chu Sin knew that if he loved someone, he had to accept everything about her. After the shock, he quickly calmed down and even felt that it was not bad to have a wife with a loud voice. At least he didn't have to coax her all day. As he thought about this, he felt like he had discovered another side of his wife, and was suddenly excited. His wife was really cute no matter how he looked at her. Even if he suddenly transformed into an eagle, it was not something he could not bear. Qingju, who had read Chu Sen's mind, was completely depressed. It looked like the other party was determined to be a pair with him. What should he do? He was an artifact spirit and had no interest in human love. However, with Chu Sen's interference, he even considered giving him an amnesia pill. Of course, his sister would not allow him to have such thoughts. After all, the memory loss pill was harmful to ordinary humans. Qingju, who had been driven mad by Chu Sun, really did not have any good ideas. At this time he really needed a military advisor. Just as Qingju was thinking about this, a pink meatball fell from the sky and landed in his arms. Qingju lowered his head to take a look. Wasn't this the shaved Song? Looking at Song Jis' reluctant appearance, he was probably thrown out by that damn demon. It had to be said that Green Vessel was right. The demon heard Green Vessel's voice and forcefully threw Song out of his room. Although a few days had passed, Song's fur had only grown a little. The pink flesh on his body could still be seen clearly. Chu Sun, who had finally recognized Song, couldn't help but point at Song and ask, "Isn't that the white cat? How did you end up like this?" Meow meow. Song, who didn't dare to speak, glared at Chu Sun and screamed, "Damn it, it's all because of you that I became like this." Chu Sun said he didn't understand, but Ahua did. After meowing a few times, Ahua moved closer to Qingju, wanting to get closer to Tsong. "Ahua, you recognize it? What's wrong?" Mama Chu asked curiously as she picked up Ahua, who had crawled out from under the sofa with great difficulty. She still hadn't seen what that pink, tender meat was. "Meow meow." Ahua proudly called out to Mama Chu, "That's my sweetheart." After that, Ahua struggled to get out of Mama Chu's arms and go to Tsang. As expected of the person who raised Ahua, she instantly understood what he was doing. At the same time, she felt a sour feeling in her heart. It was really hard to keep a grown girl. Ahua is starting to fall in love. Chapter 30-36. You have a child. 9. After putting Ahua on the ground, Mama Chu stared at Song for a long time with a judgmental gaze. Finding a daughter-in-law was different from marrying off a daughter. The son-in-law had to be carefully selected. After staring at Song for a long time, and seeing that Song did not even look at her, Mama Chu decisively concluded that this cat was not a good person for Ahua. Seeing Song, Mama Chu's desire to bring Ahua back deepened. Of course, Song welcomed her thoughts with open arms, and Qingju was also eager for her to reject it. That way he would be free from his sister's mission. However, he was destined to be disappointed because his mother was quite satisfied with him so far. Following that, with the help of his mother, Qingju had no choice but to go on a date with Chu's senator. In reality, Qingju did not want to go out at all, but his sister was not willing to help him. This made him particularly sad. Chu's son was an ordinary human, so he couldn't use his divine power on him. Otherwise, his sister would definitely be angry if she found out. Even a mortal couldn't take it. However, it was a good thing that he had Azure to accompany him. Looking at Song, who was also resentful in his arms, Green Vessel was instantly healed. He was not fighting alone. The feeling of having someone to suffer with him was really good. Green Vessel's emotions had calmed down, but Song was speechless as he asked the heavens, "What the hell was this? Was it that easy to be a third wheel?" Since Green Vessel wanted to use it as a light bulb, Songhua Duan decided that it wanted to be a light bulb that did not light up. Therefore, it had to try its best to reduce its sense of existence. The thoughts of the two little fellows could not be hidden from each other, so they both knew it in their hearts and did not expose each other. The two humans and one beast were definitely at peace at the start. As Chu-sun was too excited, he only thought of eating and watching a movie. The place where they ate was a high-end Western restaurant. As soon as the handsome man and beautiful woman entered the restaurant, they naturally attracted the attention of everyone in the restaurant. When it came to ordering, Green Vessel gave Chu-sun full authority. Of course, he did this because he didn't know how to do it. His eyes were dark, and he didn't know what to order. Chu-sun was obviously very familiar with ordering food, and was happy that his sweetheart was so dependent on him. So, after ordering 2 steaks, the two of them stared at each other as they waited for the food to be served. Chu-sun looked at Qingju affectionately. After Qingju glanced at Chu-sun, he turned his gaze elsewhere. When the steak was served, Qingju used the knife on the table to pick up the cow's hide, and took a big bite. He would even let out a tisk-tisk sound from time to time. Everyone, including Chu-sun, was shocked by his bold action. Table manners were a very important and compulsory course to take in a high-end restaurant. However, Green Vessel had completely ruined the so-called table manners. He was basically eating the steak as if it was a meat skewer. While Qingju was enjoying his meal, Chu-sun, who was sitting opposite him, had a conflicted expression on his face. However, he didn't think too much about it. He just felt that his sweetheart might not have received any training in this area, so she didn't know much about table manners. It didn't matter, this was something that could be learned. He was confident that he could turn his sweetheart into a noble lady. With this thought in mind, he endured Qingju's rough actions. After the meal, Qingju directly put his hand into his mouth to shave his teeth. The people present couldn't accept the fact that such a beautiful woman would do such a vulgar action. This was really too uncultured. How could a true noble lady be like this? Thanks, her unrefined actions despite her beautiful appearance made everyone in the dining room so disappointed that their hearts almost broke. After the meal, Chu-sun grabbed Qingju and left the dining room in a panic. After they left the dining room, Qingju was very dissatisfied and immediately questioned, "Do you think I've embarrassed you?" No. Chu-sun felt a little guilty. "Then why did you drag me out so quickly? I'm not full yet." Qingju said angrily, "Let's go." Hugging Song, Green Vessel urged. Even after eating in one restaurant after another, Qingju still did not feel full. Unfortunately, all the restaurants were about to close. He also didn't watch the movie because it was too late. After the depressed Chusun sent Qingju home, he stood outside Lung Ruoxia's villa. For the first time, he doubted his own thoughts. He stood in a daze outside the courtyard for a long time before he returned home like a walking corpse. The moment Qingju entered the house, he shouted excitedly at Lung Ruoxia. "Sister, I ate a lot of things today, but none of them were as good as the ones you made." Lung Ruoxia, who was sitting on the sofa in the living room, looked at Qingju's excited expression and said calmly, "I know you've eaten a lot. And I also know that your reputation of eating so boldly in my face has spread throughout the entire planet Blue. Now many people know that the second young master of the Chu family has a girlfriend with a black hole in her stomach. Damn Qingju, are you trying to ruin my reputation?" Lung Ruoxia said angrily. "Sister, I just wanted to use my own method to scare that guy away. I didn't do it on purpose." Qingju felt wronged. This idea had come from the two mainframes that Song had taken in. In their words, men would not like women like her. Therefore, Qingju worked hard to choose the type of woman that men would not like. To quote a famous saying, "What do you see in me? I'll change it." Forget it, let's just settle this problem first. Lung Ruoxia's words were equivalent to acknowledging Qingju's actions. Her reputation would be ruined, but it was better than being pestered by others. With Lung Ruoxia's approval, Qingju was even more motivated. In the next few days, he went from passive to active. Of course, he mainly asked Chusun out for dinner. As for Chusun, when he thought of his sweetheart's bold and unrestrained eating manner, he wanted to refuse, but he couldn't resist the temptation of her beauty and agreed. The outcome was naturally too tragic to look at. For the next few days, people treated them to a big meal. Qingju's life was very enjoyable, but Chusun did not feel good. Chusun's glass heart was shattered by his lover's increasingly rude behavior, but he was still unwilling to give up. He even had the idea of reforming his lover. Qingju was furious when he heard that he had to reform himself. Without another word, Qingju left after giving Chusun a good beating. Chusun, on the other hand, was seriously injured and had to lie in bed for a few days. While he was recuperating, many friends came to visit Chusun and sympathized with his tragic state. There were also people who told him that not everyone could handle a wild girlfriend. Clearly, Chusun did not have that ability. And now, Green Vessel's reputation could be said to be quite loud. Chapter 30-37. You have a child. 10. After he recovered, Chusun continued to try his best to change Qingju. He had liked Qingju for so long, but he couldn't convince himself to give up just like that. After all, it wasn't easy to take back the feelings he had given up, even if it was one-sided. When Qingju saw that this fellow was as persistent as his ahua, he was also furious. He didn't believe that this guy wouldn't be scared away. With the determination to scare the other party away, Qingju increased his bargaining chips and strongly requested Chusun to bring him to meet his friends. Chusun hesitated for a long time, before finally agreeing. After entering Chusun's circle, Qingju was like a fish in water. When he didn't eat or do anything stupid, he was definitely a goddess in everyone's eyes. But, in short, after Qingju successfully defeated Chusun, he also stimulated his friends one by one. Under the strong request of his friends, Chusun did not dare to bring Qingju to meet his acquaintances. The Chusun now was becoming more and more famous in the upper-class society. In the past, people knew him because he was the second son of the Chu family, but now, they knew his name because he had a girlfriend who was not presentable. Mama Chu had also heard that things were not going well between her son and her future daughter-in-law. As she had a good impression of Qingju, she specially asked him out to go shopping to see what the problem was. After shopping, Mama Chu completely gave up on Qingju. It was not enough for a woman to just have a pretty face, especially in the upper class. The future daughter-in-law that she had high hopes for clearly did not have that kind of quality, so Mama Chu quickly gave up on Qingju. Chusun was still insistent. Seeing this, Qingju was no longer in a hurry. Let's see who can last longer. Lung Ruoxia, on the other hand, was a little worried. Her reputation. Just like that, there was no return. However, in order to get rid of a certain man, her sacrifice was worth it. The Chu family's mother had already given up and forcefully brought A Hua away. Song was also free. Only Qingju was still in deep trouble. However, Leng Ruoxue believed that Qingju would soon see the light. In the days that followed, Chu Sun disappeared for more than 3 months on a business trip. When he saw Qingju again, he tactfully said to him, "Shuer, I've been thinking about it for the past 3 months. Maybe we're not suitable for each other, so let's break up. Let's split." Qingju suppressed the excitement in his heart and said loudly. He could not help but complain in his heart. They had never been together, okay? Everything was just the wishful thinking of the guy in front of him. Qingju was so happy to be abandoned that he could not stop smiling. Seeing his sweetheart like this, Chu Sun felt depressed again. Did he do something wrong? Otherwise, wouldn't his ex-sweetheart be heartbroken? But now where did he look sad at all? Chu Sun, who didn't dare to think further, fled in panic. "Congratulations." Ji Kai stepped forward and said, "Thank you." Qingju replied, and then pounced towards Leng Ruoxue. He said agitatedly, "Sister, that man has been settled. He didn't use Shun power. He didn't use any medicine. He gave up on his own. Now sister can forgive me, right? I've never blamed you." Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Immediately after, she thought of the reputation that she had lost and felt worried again. As Leng Ruoxue's weapon spirit, Qingju could naturally read her mind. He could not help but say guiltily, "Sister, I'm sorry. I've caused you trouble. You can't be blamed for this. It's that man's wishful thinking." Leng Ruoxue consoled him. She already knew the ins and outs of the incident with her beloved, so she naturally did not blame Qingju. Thanks the moment Leng Ruoxue saw this, she realized that this little fellow was clearly trying to take advantage of her. "Don't use my face to cause trouble in the future, understand?" he said with a straight face. "I know." Qingju nodded obediently. He did not dare to disobey his sister's words. Now that the matter had finally come to an end, he could play happily again. After Qingju turned back into a baby, their lives slowly returned to peace. Because of what happened before, Green Vessel and Azure were very well behaved for a period of time. However, after the incident subsided a little, the two of them went back to their old ways and caused trouble for the demon. Watching the evildoer bicker with the two little fellows every day, Leng Ruoxue suddenly felt that this kind of life was really not bad. Now they had nothing to worry about, and would go out for a walk when they were bored. One day, Leng Ruoxue suddenly felt unwell, and even vomited her breakfast. The demon's little face turned pale in fear. After Ji Kai's reminder, he quickly carried Shuer and ran to the hospital. It was only after she rushed to the hospital that Leng Ruoxue had the chance to speak. "Evildoer, I'm fine. I'm just feeling a little unwell. I know you vomited." The demon looked at Leng Ruoxue with worry. Green Vessel and Azure, who had followed behind, also looked nervous. At this moment, Ji Kai went to queue up for Leng Ruoxue's registration. When it was Leng Ruoxue's turn to go in for an examination, the 3 people and 1 beast waited outside with eager eyes. In reality, Leng Ruoxue really wanted to say that she did not need to come to the hospital. She was a god. She would have known the problem if she used her inner sight, but she didn't even have the chance to say it out loud before she was brought to the hospital by the demon. She didn't want to be examined at first, but when it was her turn, she was directly sent to the consultation room by the demon. His series of actions were so smooth that she didn't even have a chance to refuse. However, she was indeed not feeling well, so she did not reject the doctor's examination. After a round of examination, the doctor asked kindly, "Miss, are you married?" "We're married." Leng Ruoxue was very honest. "Congratulations, miss, you're pregnant," the doctor said, relieved. "There's already one?" Leng Ruoxue was stunned. What was it? For a moment, Leng Ruoxue could not react at all. The doctor looked at her silly expression and understood. He explained, "You have a child." Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue stood up with a whoosh. The doctor was so frightened that he quickly held her down and said, "Be careful, the baby is still young. It can't withstand your violent movements." She just wanted to stand up. Did she have to be so careful? Even though Lung Ruoxua had never given birth to a child before, she still had some basic knowledge. Furthermore, she knew her own body well. Not to mention standing up. Even if she were to fight with someone at this moment, the child would not have any problems. The descendant of a god was strong. Of course, he couldn't say this in front of the doctor. Otherwise, the doctor would explode. Following that, Lung Ruoxua used her inner sight to check on her child. Knowing that her child was safe and sound, she decided to leave the hospital. However, she still had a checkup to do. The doctor said that she was not allowed to leave no matter what. She even automatically assumed that this new mother was afraid of spending too much money. Chapter 30-38. You have a child. 11. After patiently explaining the importance of the prenatal examination to Lung Ruoxua could no longer listen to the other party's nagging. She had no choice but to knock the talkative doctor unconscious and run out of the hospital with the demon. Once they were out of the hospital, Lung Ruoxua glared at the evildoer and roared, "I'll never let anyone off if they ever ask me to come to the hospital again." "What's wrong, honey? Was she bullied by the doctor? I'm going to find him to settle the score." When the demon heard this, he immediately lost his temper. How dare he bully his wife? Was he tired of living? Come back here. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxua hurriedly pulled back the slightly impulsive evildoer and said, "The doctor didn't bully me. It's just that he's too slow. I can't stand it. Madam, the doctor's dawdling is for your own good. You should listen to the doctor." Ji Kai said with a worried expression. "Bullshit. I'll be a doctor myself. Who has better medical skills than me?" Lung Ruoxua was so angry that she shouted. Ji Kai was silent, and his wife was swearing again. She seemed to be very angry. Ji Kai didn't dare to say anything more. He obediently became the driver and drove Lung Ruoxua, the three people, and the beast home. When they reached home, evildoer, green vessel, and Song Quan surrounded Lung Ruoxua and asked her about her health. It was obvious that they were very concerned about Lung Ruoxia's condition. Lung Ruoxua, who initially did not want to announce this good news, could not help but expose it when she saw their concerned eyes. "I'm pregnant," Lung Ruoxua said, feeling a little embarrassed. "What's there? Don't be afraid, no matter what you have, I'll find a way to cure you," the demon said nervously. "And don't worry, girl. I'll also work hard to cure you, although I don't know how to treat illnesses," Azure said. "And me, sister, don't worry. I'll definitely do a good job in logistics." Qingju also expressed that from now on, he had to be obedient and not make his sister angry. "I will do my job as the head butler." Seeing that the two people and one beast present had expressed their opinions, Ji Kai naturally did not want to be inferior to them. "What are you guys thinking? I'm not sick. I have a baby." Lung Ruoxua was a little speechless when she saw the don't worry expression on the demons and the others' faces. When he heard this, the demon was petrified. Song asked in a daze, "Baby? Whose is it?" "Sister, will you still love me after we have a baby?" Qingju was worried that he would lose favor. Facing such good news, only Ji Kai's reaction could be considered normal. He was overjoyed. His eyes kept wandering around Lung Ruoxia's abdomen. Just as he was engrossed in the sight, he received a heavy punch on his head. Ji Kai held his head and looked up, feeling wronged. He saw his evil master, who had returned to normal, glaring at him and then shouting, "What are you looking at? That's my wife's stomach. You think you can look at it?" Ji Kai didn't know how to explain. As a single man, wasn't it normal for him to be curious? Unfortunately, he was curious about the wrong person. Thanks after dealing with Ji Kai, it was the demon's turn to stare at Lung Ruoxia's stomach. He kept mumbling, "I have a baby. I have a baby. I really didn't expect that I would actually have a child. Wife, you misunderstand me. I mean, we were born in chaos, so our body structure is different from ordinary people. Therefore, I don't know whether I can have a baby or not, but this baby is definitely mine." Seeing that he had said something wrong, the demon quickly explained, "It's mine. Evil Let Song was so angry that the veins on his forehead were throbbing. He picked up Song with both hands and threw him out of the hall out of habit. Not long after, Song Man nonchalantly ran back and continued to provoke. The baby in Nio's stomach is mine. It's mine. Can you repeat that? The demon's eyes were spewing fire, wishing he could burn Song into ashes. Azure wasn't afraid of the demon at all and revealed a proud smile. It's mine no matter how many times I say it. Lung Ruoxua was speechless. Could these two fellows not be so childish? She really wanted to scratch the wall. Ji Kai, who was watching, suddenly realized that he was unnecessary. He didn't know if his evil master and Song, this bad-tempered cat, would fight later. His life was in danger. Stop arguing, the child is mine and mine alone. It has nothing to do with you. Lung Ruoxua was infuriated. She then returned to her room in a huff. Honey. The demon saw that the head of the family was angry and quickly chased after him. Nio. Azure also wanted to give chase, but he was thrown out by Evildoer in a moment of carelessness. This time, Evildoer used 100% of his strength, and Azure directly turned into a shooting star and disappeared without a trace. As he chased Lung Ruoxua back to her room, the evildoer immediately lowered his head and tried to please her. My dear wife, don't be angry, okay? It's all because of that stupid Azure. I've already taught him a lesson. What about you? Lung Ruoxua raised her brows and asked. Honey, I'm very obedient. The demon laughed. Lung Ruoxua snorted coldly in its Sundara manner, then turned her head away and ignored evildoer. Honey, don't ignore me. Let me see the child. The demon was very curious about the new life. He wanted to see what his child looked like now. He was looking forward to it. I won't let you see. Lung Ruoxua rejected. Why? Honey, let me take a look. Just for a moment, all right? The demon begged. The children are still young and will be shy, so let's wait until they're older. Lung Ruoxua said after some thought. She could understand the evildoer's excitement to see the child, but she did not want him to know about the child's condition. She had to keep it a secret. Since Lung Ruoxua was determined not to let him see it, the demon naturally could not. That was why he had been staring at his wife with a resentful gaze, hoping to soften her heart. However, Lung Ruoxua had made up her mind. Evildoer was anxious, but he had no other choice. He could only let Lung Ruoxua be willful. After having a child, other than the occasional stubbornness and quibbling, Lung Ruoxua was as usual. However, she was a monster and had developed a rather serious case of being scorched by the pregnant man. He had become sensitive and fragile, like a glass doll that would shatter with a single touch. Even a pregnant woman like Lung Ruoxua had no choice but to accommodate to his devilish emotions. Lung Ruoxua did not know whether to laugh or cry at this fact. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.